The rogue wakes up in the middle of the battlefield, gasping for air. She forces herself up. An immense pain fills her entire body. Yep, definitely a few broken ribs there. But even through the agony, she can still move, and that's all that matters. She scans the utter devastation, desperately searching for her party. The scene is grim. The elf is down, the wizard crushed. Only the priest and the hero are still standing, locked in a desperate final battle against the Demon King. The Demon King charges up a torrent of dark energy, unleashing his final move, the Demon King's authority. And then, a foul mist fills the air. And from the ground itself, an army of the undead claws its way to the surface. The rogue looks on in horror. She can't believe the Demon King still had enough power to raise an undead army. Without wasting any time, she shifts into her skull mask and yells to the priest for a power-up. It's time to use the authority. As the priest chants, and her skull bursts into flames. Now fully powered, she carves a path through the undead horde. She tells the hero that she'll focus on the small fry so he can take on the Demon King. With the path clear, the hero and the Demon King clash head-on, their blades shaking the ground. The hero is able to land a devastating blow, cutting off the Demon King's arm. With his glowing sword pointed at the beast's chest, the hero declares, "It's over, Demon King." But the Demon King isn't done. His arm regenerates, and he grabs the hero, trapping him in an iron grip. The boss fight just entered phase 2. The Demon King's core glows brighter and brighter, its energy reaching a critical point. He's planning to self-destruct. But out of nowhere, the rogue swoops in, cutting the hero free. "Hey you," she tells the Demon King cheerfully. "If you're planning to die, let's go together." Then, the Demon King's energy detonates, engulfing her completely. As the smoke clears, the rogue emerges, but the relief turns to horror. There's a massive hole in her side. And behind her, the Demon King is still standing, heavily damaged, but very much alive. But not for long. The rogue kicks the Demon King in the face. He is shocked. She was able to survive a point-blank blast. He pins her down, realizing she must be the same as him, making her qualified to receive it. Then, the rogue lets out a scream, "Do it now." The hero doesn't hesitate. Unleashing his holy sword, Ascalon, he charges forward and slices the Demon King in half. As the monster falls, the hero and priest rush to the rogue's side, only to watch in disbelief as her fatal wound begins to regenerate. "Did you receive the blessing well?" a voice echoes. The hero looks up in disbelief that the Demon King was still alive, but he tells the hero not to worry. His body is done now. He concedes that it's their victory, and he offers them his last message. "My story ends here," he says. "Now it's your turn." His final words are a cryptic warning: "May your journey have a different ending than mine, different from us, who were empty, who were foolish." His final piece of advice: pray, do not stop, and move forward. Well, that's, unexpected. With that, the Demon King completely disintegrates, leaving the survivors on the desolate battlefield. The great battle for the world was finally over. The heroes return to a massive celebration. After that, the party go their separate ways. The wizard returns to magic school, and the elf begins the long journey home. The priest returns to his holy duties, and the hero fulfills his destiny by being crowned king. And the rogue, well, she just fades into obscurity. And so an age of peace settled over the land, continuing for a very, very long time. Flash forward approximately 150 years later, deep in a dark forest, a lone figure stirs. Our former rogue, still alive. Her name is Benlira, now over 150 years old and officially in her emo era. She reflects on how much the world has changed. Mountains have crumbled, plains have become deserts, the only constants are the stars and her. She stares at her skeletal hand, thinking about the curse of immortality. It was a parting blessing the Demon King gave her before he died, a curse that will never disappear. She wonders, immortality for what purpose? What's the point of this endless grinding? If she can't even die and must simply exist, what's the point of it all? What meaning is there if she has to be alone forever? Suddenly, from out of nowhere, a child's voice. Whoa! A shooting star and a skeleton in one night. Benlira is shocked as she comes face to face with a kid. For this immortal being, time had stopped. But with this unexpected meeting on the mountain behind Shangtab village, it suddenly felt like her lonely world is finally starting to move again. Benlira is stunned. What's a kid doing here alone late at night? But instead of screaming and running, the kid does the unthinkable. She grabs Benlira's face and squishes it. With stars in her eyes, she shouts, "It's a talking skeleton." The kid keeps messing with her face, so Benlira finally has enough. "Stop," she says. "You're the first kid I've met who didn't immediately run away screaming." She asks him, "Didn't anyone teach you to be scared of things that aren't human?" The kid just smiles and says, "I was taught not to judge based on appearances." Benlira grumbles that her century-long emo moment has been totally ruined by this weirdo. The kid is buzzing with excitement. "Master, what are you? A knight? That's a cool sword." Benlira puffs out her chest. She's an imperial messenger, but right now she's guarding this mountain with a cursed sword. But she insists she's not a master. The kid's eyes go wide. The Emperor's messenger? You must be super strong. Getting into it, Benlira brags that her job is super special, tapping her sword until it glows with dark energy. She flexes her necromancy skills, summoning a small purple creature from the ground just to show off. The kid is completely blown away. Wow, Master, you're so strong, she says, kneeling down. With total conviction, the kid bows and says, please take me as your disciple. I want to get strong too. Benlira just chuckles, saying, oh, I was getting bored with this daily routine anyway. But no thanks, it's a bother, she finishes. She immediately starts shaking Benlira, calling her a stingy, heartless skeleton for turning her down. The kid is still pouting as Benlira repeats, for the 10th time, I am not a master. The next day, Benlira is trying to get some peace and quiet. Suddenly, the kid sprints past, screaming her head off and startling the poor skeleton. Benlira asks if she's ever going home, but the kid is busy grinding experience with a stick, shouting, I'm not leaving until you teach me. Benlira insists she leaves, worried people will think she's some kind of child-snatching monster. But the kid drops a bomb. Don't worry about that. My house burned down and my parents died. My mom told me I had to get strong to survive on my own. So I have to become strong. She looks back at Benlira with a determined grin. You understand, right? And suddenly, a vision of her dear friend the hero flashes before her eyes. She lets out a long, defeated sigh. Fine, I'll teach you swordsmanship, she says. The kid is ecstatic. Really? Yes, Benlira says, striking a pose. It's not befitting of a strong woman to refuse a child. The kid is stunned. You were a woman? Ouch. After a second of processing, the kid just shrugs it off and starts cheering. As the kid runs off, Benlira thinks to herself, Emperor, your people are really going through a tough time. So I'll teach this child as atonement for failing to deliver your message. And so, the training arc begins. We get a montage of sparring, napping, and practicing on summoned monsters. Their days are full of hard work, running from bigger summons and sometimes griefing innocent travelers. Through it all, the two lonely souls form an unbreakable bond. The years pass. The child grows stronger, her movements becoming swift and precise. She is no longer just a kid with a stick. She's a skilled swordswoman who can actually keep up with her master. 11 years pass and we see a figure swimming in a forest lake. Benlira shows up with dinner. Kid, let's eat. A voice replies, oh, master, and a beautiful young woman emerges from the water. Later, by the fire, the young woman gets serious. Master, there's something I need to talk to you about. Benlira looks up. What's with the sudden serious mood? She explains that her old village was abandoned by the Empire after a massive monster surge. Everyone has given up, she says. Benlira knows exactly where this is going. You're planning to become a hero, aren't you? After 11 years, I can pretty much read your mind. She thinks back to her old friend, the hero. He always said he wanted to help people even when they laughed at him. The hero's words were simple. One does not need qualifications to save people. Benlira stands and presents her with a dagger. As your master, I present this to you. I hope you only draw this sword with good intentions, she says, holding it out to her. Benlira gives her final order, go save the world, then come back. I will always be here waiting for you. Overjoyed, she leaps up, waves goodbye, and runs off to begin her grand adventure. Benlira waves back, wondering how many years she'll have to wait. She figures it'll be at least 5 or 10 years. A long time for a human. Until she returns, Benlira's mission is simple, protect this place. She has absolute faith in the kid. She'll save the world and come back, no matter how long it takes. All she has to do is wait. Their time together was just a brief moment in Benlira's immortal life. She was alone again. But this time, it didn't seem so scary. Time passes. Then, footsteps break the long, long silence. Benlira sits in the darkness, her cursed sword now covered in vines from the passage of time. A familiar voice asks, did you get lost too, master? Benlira grumbles, I told you I'm not a master. She opens her eyes and it's her student, battered and bloody. The kid smiles weakly, hello, master. Benlira can only stare, her skeletal face frozen in shock. With a bloody grin, the kid says, it's been a while, hasn't it? Benlira notices the missing leg. But the kid just throws her head back and laughs. It was a really wonderful adventure. She begins to tell Benlira everything. How vast the empire was, how many things she saw. But it was also filled with monsters. So she used the skills Benlira taught her to help people. The people called her a hero. But the emperor saw her as a threat and ordered her assassination. Suddenly she stumbles forward, collapsing right into her arms. She whispers, I'm sorry, master. I'm a little dizzy. Weakly she asks, master, have you been well? Did you cry while I was gone? Her scarred hand clutches her cloak. I want to hear your story, master. Then, her voice fades to nothing. As her only student dies in her arms, something ancient and terrible awakens within Benlira. Nearby, a group of imperial soldiers searches the forest for the hero. They're complaining that the hero brat made them chase her all the way to the mountain when she could have, died in a more convenient place. Suddenly, the leader spots a figure in the distance and shouts, "Hey, pack up and get off the mountain." Slowly, with a grinding of bone, the figure steps out of the shadows. "Mountain?" Benlira's voice trembles with rage. "Do you still think this is a mountain?" The ground itself erupts as monstrous purple creatures burst forth, swarming the terrified soldiers. Benlira reveals the mountain's secret. 120 years ago, she found the remnants of the Demon King's army here. She personally slaughtered every last one of them, tearing them to pieces. Their corpses piled up, becoming the very soil this forest grew from. She's been guarding this place ever since, basically gatekeeping a massive undead mob farm. But now, she thinks to herself with black tears streaming down her face, there's no longer any reason to hold back. The Knight Commander desperately tries to rally his men. Everyone calm down and get in formation. He shouts that a single necromancer has a limit to how many undead they can control. Oh, but he was dead wrong. His voice trails off as he stares at a literal mountain of screaming souls rising before him. He can only listen to the screams of his men, his face a mask of pure terror. He stammers necromancy that can create an army. Just who the heck are you? Before he can finish, a spectral blade slashes across his helmet, silencing him for good. You ask who I am? Benlira's voice booms across the battlefield. I am the mouth of the Emperor, the voice of the Empire. She slams her sword into the ground, unleashing a cataclysmic shockwave of dark power. Her message echoes across the land. People of the Empire, listen to the messenger's words. In a nearby village, a boy looks out his window as the sky turns blood red. He wonders what's happening. Benlira delivers the founder's final decree. If the Empire should stray from my will, then I grant the loyal subjects the right to set it back on course. Her undead army stands assembled, an infinite legion ready for war. A new, terrifying figure appears, clad in black feathers, standing atop the skull of a colossal monster. Benlira's judgment is about to fall upon the empire that betrayed its people. My old homeland, now pay the price for your crimes. A soldier who managed to escape Benlira's wrath trudges along. He spots a village in the distance. He thinks he finally found safety. Spoiler alert, he is not. Instead, he gets a front row seat to a massacre as a horde of monsters tears through them. Inside the village, a knight gets the terrifying report. Undead are swarming the southern gate. A roasted potato thing flies through the air, shrieking random words. And yup, it's a living grenade that goes off in a massive explosion. The undead army even has air support lobbing these potato bombs from the sky. Two knights stare up in horror, realizing this isn't some low-level necromancer. This is a full-blown, organized army. One of the knights orders his men to fall back, but a lone figure steps forward. Clearly, he didn't get the memo about retreating. With blinding speed, he activates his wolf fang technique. The guy is a literal whirlwind of steel, carving a path straight through the horde. This guy isn't just any knight. He's an official knight of the Empire, Escher Soma. He's seriously impressed and wonders what kind of necromancer could raise an army this strong. Then he spots his real target. High above the village, a massive flaming purple giant looms over everything. Soma sizes him up. So that's the guy, he says, identifying the necromancer. And look who the giant is holding in its hand. It's our MC, Benlira. Soma finds this strange. A caster leading the charge and not hiding behind his minions is practically unheard of. But as we know, Benlira is not your average squishy mage. Back on the ground, Escher Soma slashes through the front lines again with his super special wolf fang technique. He even slashes Benlira. She's watching everything intently. A slash that only targets the legs from an impossible angle. It's exactly like the cut done on the kid's leg. The realization ignites Benlira's fury. Was it you? She asks. As her giant undead monster crashes to the ground, Benlira drops from the sky, her eyes locked on her one and only target. Soma grits his teeth, bracing for what's about to be a very bad time. Benlira goes on the offensive. Soma barely manages to block the strike. The two trade blows. But Benlira is just too fast, landing a kick on Soma's leg. Soma cries out in pain, his leg now totally nerfed. Before he can recover, Benlira smashes his sword right out of his hand. With Soma disarmed, Benlira unleashes a brutal flurry of punches, completely overwhelming him. She grabs her sword for the final blow. But Soma manages to kick and slash, driving Benlira a few feet back. Beaten and bloody, Soma can only call him a monster. He admits he hasn't been pushed this hard since fighting the legendary Four Knights and demands to know what Benlira is. Benlira's answer is simple, a revenant. Soma realizes he needs to buy some time, so he decides to start trash-talking. He scoffs at the whole idea. Whose revenge are you even talking about? We have killed so many people.
You think I would know who you mean?
He's banking on the fact that necromancy drains a massive amount of stamina. But before he can continue his taunt, a hand reaches out and grabs his face. Soma's eyes widen in sheer terror as a blade plunges into his sword arm. He screams in pain. Benlira's voice seethes with rage. You think killing people is something to brag about? You trample all over Imperial citizens, and for what? Worthless power? For that, you even killed my child. Soma grits his teeth, trying to endure the excruciating pain. His eyes widen with shock as Benlira gives him a kick in the gut that sends him crashing into the rubble. But even while bleeding out, Soma sneers at her. You monster, just keep whining. He tries to justify his actions, claiming it was all for the greater good of the Empire. Benlira finds this ridiculous. So by that logic, your death today is also a necessary thing, right? But he denies her even that satisfaction. Sorry, but not today. Suddenly, a massive pillar of blue light crashes down from the sky, catching Benlira by surprise. The single beam splinters into dozens, showering the entire area in crackling holy energy. Far away, a device powers up. 155 mana batteries connected. The anti-undead barrier is ready. Soma grins through the blood and pain. Mission complete. He screams the order to activate the anti-undead barrier, and a bright light erupts from a mountaintop. The light forms a massive holy cross before exploding outwards in a colossal wave of energy. The purifying wave washes over Benlira's army, hitting the undead soldiers head-on. One by one, the undead minions begin to crumble and disintegrate into nothing. The human soldiers cheer in victory. The undead are disappearing. Soma taunts Benlira, revealing the barrier was made by the hero's party magician 120 years ago. It's the strongest in history. As her own form starts to crackle and break apart, Benlira simply says, I know, because she was there, and it's, let's just say, a strange craftsmanship. Soma just looks completely confused by the comment. Benlira isn't worried. Armies do not matter. I can just raise another one. In fact, you have already created my next soldiers. The citizens your empire has exploited, they will all join me for vengeance. With glowing purple eyes, she delivers his final promise. Together with them, I will bring the empire to its end. But before Benlira can kick off her revenge tour, we gotta understand why she's so fired up. See, her and her old party hated war. They remembered the brutal grind, where every day was a fight for survival and stealing was just another Tuesday. For a hot minute, when the hero was crowned, it felt like they'd finally won the game. But all that hope just shattered into a million pieces. Now Benlira walks alone, realizing their entire struggle was basically for nothing. She's completely lost, questioning every quest they ever took on. With what heart did her past self go into the battlefield with? Who did her past self fight for? In an era without her old party beside her, she feels very, very lost. Fast forward 4 days after the hero's assassination. We're in a snowy village up north. A cloaked figure walks into a building, the little bell on the door announcing their arrival. The stranger asks for directions, claiming they got turned around in the mountains. Some local tough guy isn't having it, telling him this is an adventurer's guild, not a help desk. The cloaked figure, face hidden, says it was the only place open and they'll bounce once he gets help. Another dude gets up to start something, but the first guy waves him off. He's suspicious. He says for a simple traveler, this guy smells a lot like blood. Then he brings up a nasty rumor about a necromancer who wrecked a nearby village. In the rafters, a cloaked figure waits in silence. Suddenly, he shoots out a blade at the stranger. Could it be they were talking about you? He asks. The hood falls back, revealing a skull with a glowing purple eye. Benlira just sneers, telling the assassins they picked the wrong guy, or girl, to gank. She unleashes a shockwave. And when the smoke clears, the hidden assassin is already smashed on the floor. The adventurer realizes the sneak attack failed. He gives the order, kill him. Benlira sighs. I really just wanted directions. She cracks her knuckles, adding, this is on you now. One of the assassins leaps at her with a giant sword, screaming. Benlira just casually ducks under the huge attack. She counters with a ridiculously fast combo. And bam! Smashes him to the ground. The second assassin rushes in. Benlira catches the sword with one hand, then snatches the guy by the throat. With insane strength, she slams the man into the floor. Alright, on to the next round. She casually turns to face the next wave. 2 more assassins move in, but Benlira fluidly deflects their own blades against each other. She grabs both of them by the head and smashes their faces into the ground. The original adventurer is the last one standing, watching in total disbelief. But then, she disappears. Suddenly, she's right behind him. The adventurer's eyes go wide, but he attacks. Benlira reads the attack pattern instantly, recognizing the right side thrust is just a fake-out. She dodges the real attack and lands a perfect counter of her own. Just then, a calm voice echoes through the room. That's enough. A blonde guy with a scarred face stands on the balcony above, calling off his dogs. He says he can give Benlira what she wants. The man introduces himself as Tor Vinland, the guild master for this entire northern region. He smiles, suggesting they take this conversation to his office for a little privacy. Inside, Tor mentions a funny urban legend about a skeleton that keeps spooking adventurers on the mountain behind Changtap village. He says the guild sent search parties, but they never found anything, so he wrote it off as a tall tale. But now, seeing a literal skeleton sitting on his couch, He can't help but laugh. The rumor was real. Benlira isn't laughing. She clenches her fist, splintering the armrest and stating she's not here to chill. Her purple eyes flare as he tells Tor to get to the point. If he's got business, he needs to spit it out. Tor's whole vibe shifts. He gets serious and says his request is simple. He pulls out some cigarettes, explaining that even though the guild is part of the empire, they've been completely ignored. He lights one and lays out their grim reality. People are just waiting to die from monster attacks. Benlira is not impressed. So you're whining to me about your situation. She coldly tells Tor they should have fought back against the empire. If you do nothing, you get nothing. Tor takes a long drag from his cigarette. It's not that we did nothing. He explains they had hope. They thought the hero was going to be their savior. But he admits they were just clinging to a false hope that went nowhere. Tor wonders where it all went wrong, but then he looks at Benlira and it clicks. What we lacked was hatred. He's done caring about tomorrow. He's willing to die as long as he can take his enemies with him, because that's war. With this new resolve, Tor formally makes his request to the skeleton in his office. He promises 2 adventurers right away and the full support of the guild's resources in the future. He doesn't care if Benlira is a demon or a devil. He looks him dead in the eye and begs, "Please, let all of us join your war." Benlira is silent. Then, she apologizes for trashing the guild, admitting it's her fault for letting the Empire's neglect go on so long. She mentions it's been 150 years since she accepted a request and tosses 2 red tags on the table. Tor stares in shock. It's a ruby rank adventurer's ID. The highest rank from the Great War, a rank that's so old it's now just a legend. He looks at the tiny skeleton on his couch and demands, "Who in the world are you?" "Don't worry about it," Benlira replies. "I'm just an ugly ghost from the past." She accepts the leader's request. And now for the first stop, the biggest and baddest mountain range on the continent. We're going to the Northern Mountains. And for those of you keeping score at home, that's a long way from where she started. 5 days into their trek, a scout confirms they've been moving at a breakneck pace through the snowy Northern Mountains. The goal is simple: stay off the radar of any Imperial troops wandering around. Benlira seems to approve of the speed. But looking down from the cliff, she spots an unexpected problem. What are those bastards? One of her guides guesses that those soldiers weren't after them, they're just lost. They're not even equipped with the right gear for a mountain winter. Benlira asks, "Hey guide, what's down that lower path?" "Muran-same," the guide replies. And the other guy is Sword Harrier. He tells Benlira to at least try and remember their names. Muran answers the question. That path leads to small houses, which those soldiers will definitely raid for loot. Sword Harrier bitterly adds that since the new emperor took over, the Imperial Knights have been on a rampage. Benlira's response is simple and absolutely bone-chilling. "I'll have to kill them then." Her new friends just stare in shock as she casually jumps off the cliff. And kaboom! A massive explosion rocks the camp below, sending soldiers flying everywhere. The soldiers are in chaos. Is it an enemy attack? And Benlira confirms their worst fears. Why yes, it's an enemy attack. Sword Harrier is freaking out, yelling if Benlira wants to die. But Muran just deadpans. "Dude, the guy's already dead." Down below, the soldiers finally spot him. They recognize the infamous necromancer from Changtan village just as she drops into their ranks. She immediately unleashes his slaughtering strike. It's a blur of purple energy that shreds through armor like paper. A female knight tries to rally her troops, shouting that it is just one person. But Benlira's cold gaze says otherwise. In a flash, she is on her. Her blade cuts clean through both the knight and her horse. She holds up the severed head and mocks her last command. "Just one? Are your eyes just for decoration?" Because right behind her, an entire army of screaming purple ghosts materializes from thin air. Up on the cliff, Harrier realizes something. The power Benlira showed at the guild, that was just the tutorial level. The spectral army shrieks and descends, tearing into the completely helpless soldiers. And now she is mounted on a demonic purple horse. Benlira watches the absolute chaos she's unleashed. The 2 guides stare in awe at the ghost of Changtan village. With the battle basically over, Muran tells Sword Harrier it is their turn to head down. Benlira waits patiently on her phantom steed, a spectral monarch surveying her bloody victory. The last of the soldiers are quickly swarmed and overwhelmed by the ghosts. One last knight musters his courage and charges. He manages to chop the steed's head off. In one smooth motion, Benlira leaps from her mount and kicks the soldier in the head. A glowing gold medallion dangles off the soldier's neck. That medallion triggers a memory. Back at the guild, the master Tor Vinland had given her a similar one as an apology. He explained it was a safe return charm, handmade by his own daughter for adventurers. Benlira accepts it gratefully. "Tell her I said thank you." But then Tor drops some heavy news. His daughter was killed by the Imperial army 2 years ago. When Benlira offered condolences, Tor just waved them off. He said everyone there had lost a loved one just like him. They were all the same. He had warned Benlira not to ruin her life seeking revenge like they had. Everyone in this world has someone waiting for them. So don't go too far, skeleton. His advice echoes in Benlira's memory and she stops attacking. But then suddenly, there's a sickening sound. The soldier is skewered by one of her own. As his life fades away, the soldier could only mutter, "I'm sorry." A desperate, dying call to his daughter, Michelle. Shaken, Benlira turns to her creation and shatters it. As the phantom dissipates, Sword Harrier approaches. He tells Benlira to go rest while they handle the cleanup. They will get the fresh corpses ready for her army. Benlira just stands there silently. A dark liquid, like blood, drips from her clenched fist. A while later, a large fire is burning. Sword Harrier can only think one thing about their new boss. What a strange man. Benlira wants them to cremate all the bodies, not raise them as undead. Benlira stands alone, watching the massive funeral pyre. From a distance, Murin notes that Benlira just looks incredibly sad. And as she stares into the inferno, a dark, familiar voice invades her mind. The voice taunts her. "See? I told you it would be your turn, did I not?" It warns her that she'll be forced to make countless choices and fall into even greater despair. But before it can finish, Benlira cuts it off. "Shut up." She tells the vision of the Demon King. "If you're dead, just stay quiet in the afterlife." The creature just lets out a sinister, cackling laugh. It mocks her right back. Does she really consider her current state to be alive? It promises a despair even he can't imagine is waiting for her at the end. And just like that, the vision ends, leaving Benlira alone with its chilling words. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the Empire, a messenger rides towards a smoldering, war-torn fortress. On the walls, a red-haired woman named Frey is enjoying the ambiance. She thinks the screams of the dying are delicious. She flashes a terrifying shark-toothed grin. The smell of burning is so nice. A massive knight asks Lord Frey if she wants to join the men in a game of soccer using the princess's head. Frey casually declines. She's bored. The kingdom fell way too easily, and it was no fun at all. She wonders if there is anyone left who is fun enough to pick a fight with the Empire. Talk about perfect timing. The plot delivers. A messenger has arrived for War Knight Frey. He announces a new decree. A massive undead army has appeared in the north, their target the evil necromancer leading them. Hearing this news, a slow, wicked grin spreads across Frey's face. Her eyes gleam with pure delight. It looks like her wish came true. A real madman has finally appeared. She leaps from the wall and gives her command. Assemble the troops. Far up in the desolate northern mountains, Benlira silently leads her new crew through the endless snow. After 2 straight weeks of pure silence, one of her escorts finally cracks, complaining that Benlira hasn't said a single word. He gripes that it's like traveling with a corpse. Meanwhile, his buddy is just baffled at how the skeleton's head is even floating. Talk about breaking the laws of physics. So how did we get here? Let's rewind. Back at the guild, Tor Vinland lays out his theory. The undead is from Spear Tower Village and likely connected to the hero who recently died. He connects the dots. The timeline when the hero was hunted down by knights perfectly overlaps with the undead army incident. But the biggest clue, the undead's fighting stance is a 1-to-1 copy of the hero's. Case closed, folks. Hearing this, Murin Same has a realization. This skeleton probably isn't some big bad. He's just as desperate as they are. Tor's conclusion? Benlira might not be an ally, but she's their best shot at taking down the Empire. So he assigns 2 adventurers to guide her. Since Murin Same and Sword Harrier were both from the north, he picks these 2 to be Benlira's guide. Sword Harrier is not convinced, but Tor just hands him a scroll and says not to worry. He's got a good feeling about this one. Flash forward to the present. Sword Harrier nervously asks, Mr. Undead, sir, that direction is? Benlira turns slightly and finally speaks. Yes, Spear Tower Village. I'll stop by there for a bit. The name of the village triggers a memory. She remembers the young hero playfully putting a paper bag over his head. She pulled her through the bustling streets of her hometown, a place once overflowing with life. They're even greeted by a friendly innkeeper who welcomes them in for a drink. Inside, Benlira somehow nails a perfect bullseye at darts. The entire tavern goes wild, lifting her up like a champion. Yeah, this place used to be full of warmth and laughter. A very happy memory for Benlira. But now, it's dark, broken, and completely empty. Benlira just sits there, all alone. She clasps his hands on the table. Suddenly, a mug is slammed down right in front of her. She looks up. It's the innkeeper. She's older, scarred, but she's still here. Sorry, she says, the inn's been closed for ages. Not using that fancy bread bag anymore. Benlira recognizes her and is floored. She asks how she could possibly know about the bag. She just takes a drink. She says she heard plenty of stories. You're the little kid who used to work here as a teacher, right? She holds up the bottle. It's called D&I, a cheap drink that means new beginnings. Turns out the kid left it for her before she left. It's a custom for adventurers to drink together for a safe journey, but it's been a long time since any were sold. Why? Because there are no adventurers left in the village. The innkeeper understands why Benlira rose up, but tells her that what she's thinking about doing now is wrong. She asks Benlira a simple question. It might be possible to save the people of this empire, but is this monstrous form what her student would have wanted her to become? I don't think so, the innkeeper continues, placing some items in front of her. I think your student would have wanted you to be a little brighter. She gestures to the items on the table. The innkeeper confirms yes, she asked me to pass it on to you, and Benlira is floored. She opens the journal. It's filled with kid drawings of a classic fairy tale. Gathering allies, saving people, and beating the big bad, just like the legendary Red Jade adventurers her party did more than a century ago. One passage reads, I hope to have a fairy tale adventure one day, and I wanted to have it with you. The word adventure echoes in her mind as she chugs down her drink, and it all clicks. Blinded by rage, she was on the wrong path. Kid, everyone says I'm your teacher, but I'm the one who's learning here, Benlira whispers to herself. She rises up to leave. Thanks for the drink. The innkeeper asks where she's off to. Are you a new beginning? She asks. Now that I've had a drink, I should go, Benlira replies. The kid's last wish was to have an adventure with her. Now she's setting off, not for revenge, but to go on that adventure. As Benlira exits the pub, Miran starts talking about their next route. It was going to get cold, but the joke's that Benlira is just a bag of bones, so won't feel anything. Benlira laughs out loud and replies, all right, my incompetent juniors. The guides are completely shocked by the change in vibe. Sword Harrier wonders if Benlira's bad mood is finally over. He remembers the guildmaster, Tor Vinland, handing him this mission with a confident smile. Harrier sighs. Looks like the old man's eye for talent was spot on after all. With that, they scramble to catch up to Benlira, who's already left them in the dust. On the road, Harrier drops a quick tutorial on adventurer ranks. There are 10 tiers from Earth all the way to Diamond. Basically, higher rank means more cash, but you can't grind low-level quests. Most people cap out at the 7th rank, Topaz. Anyone who breaks past that is considered a superhuman. These top-tier players either explore uncharted territory, hold the line against monster waves, or lead imperial armies. To put it simply, he says, you need to be lower tier to kill small fry like these goblins. And the people who kill bigger ones like this Cyclops are middle-tier adventurers. While he's explaining, Miran launches into the air and kills the Cyclops with style. Finally, Harrier points to a huge pile of dead monsters. And this kind of carnage is the work of a high tier. He turns, annoyed. Are you even listening? Benlira just goes, huh? Yeah, of course. Benlira asks what rank they are. Miran proudly puffs out her chest. We're both 5th tier, Topaz. Benlira scratches her head. Huh. The ranking system has changed a lot since my day. Harrier is surprised. You were an adventurer? Benlira casually mentions she was Ruby rank, if that's still a thing. The name Ruby rings a bell, but Harrier can't quite place it. Miran just bursts out laughing. A rank that only exists in fairy tales. Uh-oh, my friend. She just pushed the wrong button. Benlira's voice drops. My undead army? Miran's laughter dies in her throat. Huh? Suddenly, the 3 colossal spectral beasts, the ones they just killed, erupt from the ground, roaring down at them. Benlira just casually says, oh, I can do this too, making them dance. Harrier immediately begs him to despawn them. Benlira chuckles and calls them back, calling them scaredy cats. She then adds that for a northerner, Miran has the guts of a flea. For a moment, her mood softens, as she remembers her old party, her true companions. And of course, the joy he shared with his student. Yes, it was exactly like this. Miran breaks the silence, asking why he's heading to the monster-infested northern mountains. Benlira explains she has promises to keep and things she needs to find, and so on. She explains that she originally planned to storm the Empire with the Demon King's army, but the entire army was vaporized by this dude. Harrier can't believe how that was even possible. Benlira tells him that it wasn't just any barrier. It was a special barrier made by the mage of the hero's party. Harrier puts 2 and 2 together. So you need a human army? Yup. Her goal is to make the northern people her allies. They're horrified. Make allies with those fur-covered psychos? Harrier mutters that if she does succeed, that's a continental super army. Benlira strikes a pose. Her original plan was just to take the Emperor's head, but her disciple talked him out of it. Miran is stunned as Benlira states her new goal. Rather than chopping people up, she's going to rebuild the Empire properly. Sensing the heavy mood, Benlira decides to change the subject. She bluntly calls them out for failing the great hunt and running away. What now? She smirks, telling them she'll cut them some slack since it's a long journey. Bring it on. Harrier gets nervous. Let's just go, shall we? Suddenly, Benlira's aura explodes. Feeling brave? She asks ominously. From now on, we're playing a little game. Her voice drops to a menacing whisper. Run. The massive spectral beast spawns in front of them. I'll give you 10 seconds. Harrier panics, yelling that they didn't even provoke her and that she's completely insane. He calls for Miran, but she's already gone. A true friend. Miran is already sprinting away. Let's live and meet again, Harrier. Benlira's countdown is a blur. Time's up, she declares. The beast roars and lunges, and Harrier flees for his life. As she watches their suffering, her thoughts drift to those she's lost. Even though they're gone, their memory is what keeps her going. Then she lets out a small laugh. She erupts in manic laughter, riding the beast. You will be my second batch, my clueless disciples who I never wanted. She yells, be thankful. This I am personally training you so you don't become useless. The giant beast continues its rampage through the forest, chasing the two terrified adventurers. Benlira's true resolve is clear. This time she won't get lost. She will protect them to the end so can continue living as herself and not a shadow of the Demon King. From a nearby mountain, an unseen figure observes the plume of smoke rising from the explosion. I've found you, she giggles. Okay, now back to our little, training session. It's a full-on monster chase through the woods. Harrier almost gets blasted by a shockwave, sending him flying. He's screaming his head off, convinced this is his final respawn. But then, a red blur zips right past him. It's a woman with fiery red hair and a great sword. And folks, she's got that here for a good time, not a long time grin. The beast fires off a laser, but she's just way too quick on her feet. She literally slices the beam in half, like a pair of scissors. Next thing you know, she's upside down in Benlira's face saying, hey there. Benlira is completely stunned by the surprise entrance. He just barely blocks her massive blade with his own weird sword. Benlira counters with a tornado-style attack, launching her into the sky. But she's not done. She flips midair for a crushing dragonbone smash. From the sidelines, Murin can only scream for Mr. Skull. Benlira lands unharmed, complaining, an ambush? How rude. The woman just snarls back, who are you? She introduces herself as Frey, here to meet the Phantom of Speartop Villages. Turns out she's Frey of War, one of the Empire's legendary four knights, and she's here to fight. Benlira actually recognizes that title from an old conversation. With introductions over, Frey is ready to throw down. Benlira accepts. They charge, and the first clash creates a massive shockwave. Frey grins, easily dodging Benlira's wild attacks with incredible flexibility. Benlira lunges, but Frey uses her own arm as a springboard to vault over her. Then she brings that massive sword crashing down from above. In a wild move, Benlira blocks the blade with just his forearms. Frey doesn't miss a beat, kicking her back into the dirt. Frey thinks Benlira is a weird opponent. Her movements are just unnatural. Benlira's inner thoughts are a bit simpler. What a nasty human being. Suddenly, she flicks a tiny rock shard right at Frey's eyeballs. Then she unleashes a furious combo, but Frey just roars with laughter. A final kick sends her flying across the battlefield. Frey just gets back up, calling the fight dull. Talk about a tough critic. She calls Benlira out for being distracted by her little runts. Then she promises to bury them all together. Benlira just looks at his skeletal hands. You? Kill me? She admits Frey is strong, a true warrior born from hard work. But, she says, your fatal flaw is your poor eyesight. Frey just curses. Did the skeleton just suss out her weakness? A massive shadow beast bursts out of the ground right beneath her. Benlira screams for her crew to toss her a sword, then yells one final command, and a massive red explosion rocks the entire forest. They make their escape on the spectral beast, coughing from the smoke. Classic Benlira move. She cheerfully reveals her smoke bomb recipe includes chilies and powdered turtle shell. Harrier is not amused. Murin is panicking. She knows not even an army can take down one of the four knights. Benlira just calmly admits that yeah, she probably can't stop that maniac either. She points to a marker saying they've crossed a boundary. The new plan? Run and be loud. But it's too late. Their enemy has already caught up. Frey is screaming with laughter, wondering if this is some kind of undead army. To her, this is a real war. Soldiers swarm the beast as Murin screams for Mr. Skeleton to do something. Benlira gets ready, announcing her northern style. Across from her, Frey prepares her own spiral style. Their ultimate attacks clash. Giant expenditure twist versus Mad Dog slaughter tragedy. The resulting shockwave is immense, tearing through the landscape. The collision creates an explosion so big it shakes the nearby mountains. In the crater, Frey laughs. A monster, smoke bombs, weird swordsmanship, this is getting fun. Her battle lust is fully ignited. You've got more, don't you, Mr. Skeleton? Benlira just gets up complaining about all the dust. How dare you soil a lady's clothes like this? Frey scoffs back. A lady? You don't even have eyes to look in a mirror. And so begins the classic mid-fight trash talk session. You love to see it. Frey gets serious again, asking why she isn't using her undead army. She's disappointed. Were Benlira's companions distracting her and holding her back from going all out? And then a dark thought crosses his mind. What if he just killed them? He wonders if that would let him finally go all out in this fight. But Benlira snaps her out of it, yelling at Frey for getting too close to an enemy. Frey just blushes with a crazed grin, taunting him for her arrogance. Her expression hardens. She leans in and whispers that she's going to crush her head. But before she can, a volley of arrows rains down from the sky. But a few arrows in the shoulder are just a minor inconvenience for Frey. Frey, was it? Benlira asks smugly. Now pay your respects to the mother mountain of the northern tribe. They had just entered hostile territory. A sinister grin spreads across Frey's face. She finally gets it. She was wondering why Benlira came all the way to the northern tribe's front yard. She mockingly asks if she dragged them all this way for such a cheap trick. Go ahead and butter them up. I'll wait as long as it takes, Frey promises. Frey's eyes light up with manic glee. This is turning out to be the most entertaining war. Bring it on, Mr. Undead. Benlira can only think one thing: this woman is completely insane. Suddenly, Sword Harrier and Muran rush to her side, relieved she's safe. Muran points to the archers. Looking a bit sheepish, Benlira admits she almost forgot about them. She turns and cheerfully thanks the northern tribe for their help. But her friendly greeting is cut short by an arrow straight through the hand, not the knee. Up in the trees, a hooded archer cackles, a talking skeleton. He muses he could drink liquor from its skull. Benlira deadpans. Right, they are that kind of people. Muran and Harrier can only agree. Without another word, the northern tribesmen leap from the trees and charge straight at them. Time to run. As they flee, a tribesman screams, "Intruder detected." Muran is in a full-blown panic. What is going on? I thought you had an agreement with them. He yells at Benlira, who casually replies that their agreement was from about 100 years ago. So yeah, maybe they forgot? Benlira suggests dropping Muran's name, but she explains that would only make things worse since they're fugitives. Especially Harrier, who apparently has some bad history here. Right on cue, a volley of arrows pins Harrier in place. Looks like she has to use her own name then. She stomps the ground, raises a hand, and roars, "Don't move. My name is Benlira Edwards. As a member of the northern tribe, I request an audience with your chieftain." The tribesmen are not impressed. A skeleton claiming to be one of them? Heard that one before. Benlira flashes a peace sign, thinking she's totally solved the problem. Newsflash, it does not. They are now locked behind bars. Harrier is fuming, sarcastically thanking Benlira for getting them thrown in a cell. She bonks him on the head. Muran asks if she really is from the tribe. Benlira, standing over a knocked-out Harrier, replies, "Used to be a long time ago." Harrier snaps awake, panicking. He recognizes this place as Red Sheep Village and says they're totally screwed. He starts freaking out, yelling that their mission was to guide Benlira to the entrance, not make contact. The cell door clangs open. A guard tells Benlira that the chieftain wants a word. The three are led in chains through the snowy village. Benlira notes that the place hasn't changed a bit. They arrive at an arena full of beaten warriors. A voice asks if he's the talking undead. On a stone throne sits the chieftain of the Red Sheep tribe, Red Silk. He scoffs at Benlira's claim. "You've got some nerve pretending to be a northern tribesman." His gaze then shifts to Muran and Harrier. He glares at them, saying they have some nerve waltzing back here. Benlira insists she's telling the truth and asks to be untied so they can talk things out. But Red Silk isn't having it. He's furious that Benlira brought along failures who can't even call themselves tribesmen. Benlira replies, "Oh, you mean the ones who failed the Great Hunt, still treating them like outcasts. Things haven't changed at all." Then she shatters the stocks with pure force. Red Silk grabs his cloak, enraged. "Don't speak about what you don't understand, undead." A warrior tries to step in, but Red Silk brushes him aside. This annoying skeleton is getting under his skin. Benlira's eye glows a menacing purple. "Your skin?" she taunts. That's the last straw for Red Silk. Leaping into the air with twin axes, the chieftain screams, "I'll tear you to pieces." He slams his axes down, but Benlira easily deflects the shockwave to shatter the stocks on her friends. Muran stares at her freed hands. She broke the shackles on purpose. Benlira calmly tells them both to fall back. Red Silk unleashes a Beyblade spin of axe strikes, but Benlira just weaves between the blows like it's nothing. Muran is in awe. The chieftain is strong, but the skeleton's movements are on another level. With blinding speed, Benlira uses her open palms to parry and deflect every single powerful attack. The crowd can only scream as Benlira effortlessly deflects the entire onslaught. She flows around another massive swing which shatters the stone ground where she just stood. Panting and furious, Red Silk growls, "Is that all you've got?" Benlira calmly clenches his fist. No. She unleashes a single explosive strike. The chieftain taunts her, "You're light." "Duh, yeah, I'm nothing but bones." Then, Red Silk's punch connects, and Benlira gets thrown. Red Silk scoffs, declaring that the dead should stay dead and turn to dust. But in the next instant, he's on his knees, completely baffled. His body won't move. He realizes Benlira must have hit a pressure point, paralyzing him in an instant. Benlira completes his speech. The dead should simply turn to dust and fade away, while the living remember them and move forward. She's heard that speech 1,000 times. She flips the script, asking why the living chieftain is kneeling while he, the dead one, still stands. Glowing with a menacing purple aura, Benlira stalks toward the immobilized warrior. She materializes a massive energy blade and looms over him. "All right, chieftain of Red Sheep, now let's talk." Completely overwhelmed, Red Silk admits his total defeat. He asks Benlira what she wants. Benlira's demand is simple: gather the northern tribes because they're going to war with the Empire. As Harrier and Moran rush in, a defeated Red Silk chuckles and accepts the command. He agrees to convene the Great Council and will summon Benlira when it's time. But he doesn't trust her, ordering the group to stay at Harrier's mansion until the meeting. Benlira looks confused. Harrier has a mansion? Red Silk is shocked. You came into Red Sheep territory without knowing that? You mean that kid didn't tell you? Sword Harrier just laughs awkwardly in the background. Red Silk scoffs at the ridiculous situation and points to a massive snow-covered estate. He reveals that her guide's real name is Sword Harrier Hawker, pointing out the clan symbol on the building. The same symbol is tattooed on Harrier's arm. Yep, my friend, he's from an allied tribe. And not just any member. He is the successor of the legendary White Lion Mane tribe. And this is his crib, a massive mansion in the middle of the snowy northern territory. I guess the whole broke guide thing was just a front. Benlira is absolutely loving this. Seeing the usually scruffy Harrier try to act all prim and proper is just hilarious. But Harrier looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. He basically bailed on his family and wanted to forget this place ever existed. Yep, he hates this place. He tells them he'll be in his room if they needed anything. Benlira remarks that he's like a completely different person. Murin is like, I know, right? They're greeted by a scarred-up older dude who introduces himself as Van Sun, the mansion's caretaker. Turns out Van Sun and Murin already know each other. He asks how she's been, and she gives a pretty vague answer. Van Sun explains that Murin is the gardener's daughter, so despite acting like Harrier's friend, she's still technically a servant. He then confirms the big news. Harrier really is the next chief. He was just studying with the Red Sheep tribe for a bit. Van Sun explains that Harrier was sent away to grind EXP. This was the perfect place to learn due to the constant territorial wars happening in this area. But after failing the main quest, the Great Hunt, over and over, Harrier's confidence got nerfed. He went AFK with Murin 4 years ago. All the other servants dipped and returned to their own tribes. Van Sun was left to manage this huge, empty mansion all alone. When Benlira asks why he stayed, Van Sun cracks a massive smile. He couldn't let the place get dusty before its master came home, right? And that's when Benlira gets it. Van Sun and Murin never gave up on Harrier, and the whole tribe has been waiting for him this whole time. Later, Benlira finds Murin outside tending to some flowers. She explains it's a family tradition. Murin admits Harrier would have been a great chief, but that's not why she left with him. Alright folks, get ready for the flashback arc. The story starts with her dad, a gardener named Post Same, presenting a young Murin to the chief. The chief Riemann Russ Hawker, aka Harrier's mom, is an absolute unit. She's sitting on a throne with a giant white lion pelt just chilling behind her. Riemann believes the mountain itself brought them here. She welcomes them to live as part of the tribe. Young Moran promises to repay their kindness, and a quiet little Harrier is told to give her the grand tour. Their first meeting is a little awkward. Harrier formally introduces himself as they walk through the snow. Then, Murin hands him something on a stick. He thinks it's a gift. But then he realizes she just handed him a stick covered in goat poop. What the heck? With a cheeky grin, Murin introduces herself properly. Harrier, totally flustered, tries to pull rank on her. Murin just looks at him. Is rank that important? She asks. More important than having fun? Harrier is speechless. Murin leans in, calls him a dummy, and then grabs his hand to drag him off. Next thing you know, they're running through the fields and happily chasing a giant, terrified boar. Harrier notices other kids watching them. Murin doesn't miss a beat, proudly introducing him as her new friend. For the first time ever, Harrier feels like he has real friends. Murin never treated him differently. She didn't care that he was the chief's son. She didn't see his title or his rank. She just saw him. And for a kid like Harrier, that was everything. A few years pass. Harrier and Murin are older now, chilling in a field. Harrier wonders if he can live up to his mother's legacy. He admits he's nervous about leaving to study with another tribe. Murin tells him to relax. It's not just her. The entire White Lion Tail tribe believes in him. Finally, Harrier arrives at the Red Lamb tribe. He's greeted by his new teacher, Chief Red Silk. Yes, that same Red Silk. Red Silk promises to teach him everything he needs. He's going to forge Harrier into a true future chief. And the training is brutal. Red Silk's rule is simple. A chief should never ever lose. Time to grind those strength stats. Next up is strategy. He has to learn how to read a battlefield and make split-second decisions with lives on the line. Then comes the academic torture. Harrier is locked in a library and told to master over 2,000 books on history, law, and monster data. The non-stop grinding pushes him to his breaking point. He's literally bleeding from exhaustion over his books. Pushed to his absolute limit, blood dripping from his nose, Harrier starts to doubt himself. Can he really do this? But just thinking about Murin's smile gives him the buff he needs. With new determination, he dives back into his studies, forcing himself to keep going. About a year into this hellish training montage, they get the bad news. Harrier had run away. As Murin is telling her story, a lone figure approaches the village. He's the sole survivor of his unit, now apologizing to the ghosts of his fallen comrades. The guy is so ashamed he thinks he's been blacklisted from Valhalla itself. His survivor's guilt is hitting hard. He was the only one who made it out alive. Yep, the damned wolves of the Empire have arrived to the party. Okay, back to story time. Anyway, every child in the Empire grew up to these stories of the hero and his party defeating the Demon King. Harrier was no exception, and this kid soaked up every single word. He looked up to his legendary mother warrior and the loyal soldiers who followed her. Young Harrier wanted to be just like them, a true hero of the people. He poured all his hopes and dreams into his training, staking everything on his blade. But we all know how this ends. A shattered boy and a broken sword. So right after Harrier bolted, Murin decides to go after him. Van Sun calls her foolish for going into a blizzard, but she's not listening to a word. Ignoring his pleas, she just says, "I know," and walks out into the storm alone. Her mind is made up. She has to find her friend no matter what. And she finds him. Drowning his sorrows at the bottom of a bottle in a tavern, Murin appears in the doorway. "Hey, remember what I said before that becoming an adventurer might not be such a bad idea?" He looks up and says her name, but she is furious, calling him an egregious bastard. She demands to know why he ran away. His excuse? It wasn't his style. He just laughs, saying he had no talent and zero qualifications to be chieftain. She's not having any of it. Murin marches over and grabs him by the collar. "Don't bullshizzle me. You wanted to be chieftain more than anything else in the world. Who would say that?" She yells. "My teachers," he simply replies. He failed the Great Hunt trial. Not once, not twice, but 4 times in a row. He says his stats are terrible. No battle sense, no magic, no special skills, nothing. All he has are his instincts, and for that he was called disqualified 1,000 times. He tells her she can't understand the pressure of letting everyone down over and over. She asks if running away was the answer. He says at least here, he can finally breathe. But she hits him with the hard question, is this really who you wanted to be? All they can think about is the hero he used to dream of becoming. Fast forward 2 years. The sun rises over the adventurers' village. They're now full-time adventurers taking on quests from nearby villages. Harrier, now a shield bro, just says, "Let's go, Murin." Murin agrees. He is in his old self, but she sees that his spark is coming back. She stayed by his side for 2 whole years, hoping he would heal, but they never spoke about anything related to the village. But she notices he still carries his tribe's shield. That means there's still hope yet, right? Suddenly, the entire building starts to shake. That was the day Benlira stepped into their lives. The flashback ends. Murin explains that after meeting Benlira, she saw the old Harrier again. Murin tries to explain Harrier's potential, admitting she's not great with words. Then she gets serious, asking if Benlira will actually train him, even if it was just a joke. Benlira says he has talent, but he's nerfed because of a bad matchup with his old mentor. Murin agrees. She thinks Benlira already knows exactly what Harrier needs. Back in the mansion, Harrier is just chilling when there's a knock at the door. But instead of an answer, a fist smashes right through the wood. Harrier scrambles back in pure shock, wondering what is happening. Turns out, what he needs is a teacher to break down his walls. Literally. "Let's go train." Benlira peeks into the hole with glowing eye sockets. Harrier lets out a terrified scream as Benlira casually drags him off to train. Benlira lays down rule number 1 with a smile, no resting until you die. Harrier is freaking out. He's like, "Wait, did you not just hear my sad backstory?" Her response is to grind her knuckles into his head. She thinks he's too noisy. Benlira wonders how he even heard them. Murin just laughs, telling her Harrier just has great hearing. Benlira gives a thumbs up, assuring her this training montage is serious business. Looking down at the knocked-out Harrier, she admits, "I've grown fond of this idiot." Murin just giggles to herself, finding the whole thing surprisingly cute. Benlira is confused by her reaction, while Harrier continues to mumble on the pavement. A while later, Benlira and Muran are at a meeting with Chief Red Silk. He's asking where Harrier is. Benlira just leans back, acting all cool. "Oh, he's busy. I'm teaching him a few things. Don't worry about it." The chief ain't buying it. He scoffs, calling Harrier a weak child who ran away during training. "Nah, you just suck at judging people. You can't even see his insane potential." All the chief can do is growl back, calling him a freaking skull. Suddenly, the main doors fly open as a guard frantically screams for the chief. The chief, looking super annoyed by the noise, grumbles and asks who's causing a ruckus. A gatekeeper rushes in, announcing they've found a survivor from the coastal defense. A battered blonde warrior collapses, begging the chief to attack the Empire so he can die with honor. The chief, now sitting with Benlira and Muran, shuts him down. Attacking first means all-out war and massive casualties. He orders the defender to return to his post, telling him to avoid meaningless fights. But the warrior completely explodes. "Aren't you even angry? We're gonna die at the coast." Benlira asks who this guy is, and the chief confirms he's the sole survivor from the coast. The survivor tells them what happened. The Empire's army set up a massive ambush. It was a complete wipeout that killed countless veteran defenders. Basically, the Emperor has been relentlessly sending forces north. But for now, the tribes can only play defense. Yep, for these people on the coast, they are still stuck in a time of war. A relentless battlefield where even burying your friends is a luxury. Outside after the meeting, Benlira and Murin have a talk. "Sorry, I've been accepted as a northern warrior," asks Murin. Benlira tells her she's already got the right stuff. The brains, the grind, and most importantly, the right experience. She then calls her out. "You pretended to fail in the Great Hunt because of Harrier, right?" Murin gets a little flustered and asks about Harrier. Benlira explains that Harrier is nerfed by his own self-loathing and the pressure of being the chief's son. But the most important stat for a warrior, Benlira says, is having the will of a warrior. She recalls that this cannot be taught, only forged through harsh experience. She should know. She's trained countless warriors like them in her past life. She thinks maybe that's what her destiny is, to pass on the wisdom of the past. She promises Murin she'll awaken Harrier's potential. The next time Harrier stands on a battlefield, he'll prove he's the Chad he failed to become at the Great Hunt. 7 days later, at the entrance to the northern mountains, Frey is just chilling in the snow, yelling at her 2 giant armored knights for eating it. They don't care. It's delicious. And who should show up but the Knight of War himself, Asura Soma. He immediately starts roasting Frey for hanging out with her stupid guys. While Frey defends her knights, one has a brilliant idea: sprinkle blood on the snow for Strawberry Bingsu. The other is floored by his 200 IQ play. Frey cuts to the chase, asking if Soma came all this way just to reclaim the 4th Knight title. He scoffs. "I don't have time for that. I'm here to deal with that necromancer." Soma then asks why she's just slacking off instead of marching her army into the mountains. She just smirks, telling him she's waiting for him to amuse her all on his own. Soma calls her pathetic and stares out dramatically into the distance. He's a man who doesn't wait. He orders his troops to prepare for attack, sending the 4th platoon on recon. The cavalry charges onward to the northern mountains. With a sinister look, Soma vows, "Wait for me, necromancer. I will make you pay for the face you ripped from me." Meanwhile, back at the northern camp, Benlira checks on the chief. The chieftain looks grim. Imperial forces have invaded the mountains. He explains this isn't a simple raid. A massive force is pouring in from the coast, trying to tear the mountains apart. Messengers have been sent, but they won't make it in time. The coastal ambush was just a prelude to this. His eye glows with pure rage. "Like it or not, this is war, you Empire scumbags." Suddenly, Benlira announces, "Red Sheep Tribe, clear the way. I'm going in." On the battlefield, it's chaos. One northern berserker lets out a savage roar, leaping onto the shields with his axe held high. Watching from a ridge, Benlira smells the stench of blood. So it's come full circle, another battlefield. She has stood on countless battlefields, and deep down she can feel that this time it's different. She's made up her mind. She won't run from her duty anymore, because now she bears all their hopes upon her back. Just then, the injured defender from before struggles up the hill, shouting that he's going too. He refuses to sit in the medic tent while a battle rages on, claiming it's as good as being dead already. Benlira recognizes him and tells him to calm down, but the warrior angrily demands if Benlira is trying to stop him. Benlira wouldn't dare. She only asks one thing: "Do you dream of revenge for your comrades?" He replies, "I do not seek vengeance for my comrades. We are the glorious shields of the Red Sheep Tribe who guard the coast. I am ashamed for failing to complete my mission. That's why I'll fight to finish it." Benlira is impressed. She then poses a question: what if they could wake the honorable dead to fight once more? The defender is horrified. "What are you saying? Raising the dead isn't honorable. It's sorcery." But then his comrades were the honorable shields of the Red Lamb tribe. If there's ever a reason to wake those who have found rest, it would be when their land is being invaded once more. Benlira understands perfectly. She extends a hand. "Well, if that's the case, will you lend me their flag for a moment?" she asks. With tears in his eyes, the warrior grabs Benlira's hand. "I offer my boundless admiration for your dedication," Benlira says as a brilliant purple and gold light erupts. The whole battlefield is suddenly blinded by an overwhelming light. The warrior looks up, stunned by what's happening. "Raise your heads, northern warriors," Benlira commands. "Forsake your afterlives and tread the living land again." The flag of the Coastal Defense Force rises high, a call to arms for those long dead. "Defense Force, return immediately," Benlira commands. And from the frozen ground, an army of the dead answers. "Defense Force, the Mother Mountain you swore to protect is being invaded once more. Please forgive my impudence. We need the strength of you who have crossed over. And not even the rivers of the underworld can stop their return." Benlira orders all remaining forces to fall in line with them in glorious formation. Their final mission has just been issued. Before the night passes, complete the mission and return. Watching this, the lone survivor of the defense force weeps, repeating his oath as his comrades rise. He holds his sword high, knowing his brothers in arms are back for one last fight. On the other side of the field, the Imperial cavalry charges forward. But the undead shield wall holds firm, ready to meet the assault head-on. They are the indomitable shields. They will not break even as magic rains down on them. Benlira asks the spirits of the mountain to forgive her sin of summoning the departed, and pleads for them to allow these soldiers to complete their final mission. Benlira then turns to Harrier, telling him that while the battlefield is a bit much for him, sometimes a little advanced learning is important. Thanks to their new undead army, the scales have been balanced, creating the perfect training ground for the future leader. It's time for Harrier to prove himself, not in a mock test, but on a real battlefield. Harrier just stares back, completely stunned. A real battlefield, a place of total chaos, where death is everywhere. A cold, brutal sight of slaughter. Benlira asks him bluntly, "Can you prove yourself here?" Harrier starts to hesitate, so Benlira just smacks him right across the face. "Clear your head. War means embracing responsibility and curses. Don't look away." She places a hand on Harrier's chest. "I'll carry out my role. You just worry about yours." As Benlira turns to leave, Harrier asks where she's going. He has to settle things with a certain monster. And that monster is Frey, who's laughing maniacally amidst the carnage. "Look at this," she screams with delight. She's finally using it. The undead army. Suddenly, Benlira launches herself off the ledge and shouts, "Now, the time has come. Go, Harrier, into the midst of life and death. You can do it." Benlira's voice echoes in his mind as he dons his mask. "Realize that you are a warrior of the north." Below, the Imperial forces prepare to meet him. Shields up, mages ready to fire. A volley of magical energy streaks through the air, aimed directly at him. But Harrier effortlessly weaves through the attack, dodging every single blast. An Imperial soldier can only watch in shock. What kind of power is that? Harrier lands right on his face and slashes, leaving a spray of blood against the snow. Murin watches in disbelief. Without his shield, Harrier's movements are completely different. Benlira explains that Harrier's best stats are his flexibility and explosive power. Frey snaps at him to focus, but he continues his analysis. Harrier's old style was nerfing him. He idolized his mother, a fierce warrior, so he just copied her form instead of finding his own. Harrier's real talent lies in brawling against many foes at once, using feints and concealed weapons. He flawlessly executes the style, whipping a rope-tied blade right into an enemy's throat. He's an absolute whirlwind of death, cutting down foes with brutal efficiency. Benlira knows the truth. That kid is a rogue and warrior dual class just like her. On the battlefield, Harrier feels no fear. This is it. This is what it means to be a northern warrior. Benlira watches her student, completely absorbed. "Hey, where are you looking? Focus." Exactly what I wanted to say. Frey suddenly leaps through the air behind Benlira and attacks with a scissor kick, warning that if she keeps playing teacher, she'll die. Frey unleashes a vicious flurry of kicks. She's got Benlira by the collar, and boom! Seeing this, Harrier screams, "Master!" But hold up. A new player has entered the arena, unleashing an attack straight at Harrier. Just as it's about to hit, Murin slams down. "Don't let your guard down." Harrier, breathing heavily, just says, "Thanks, Murin." Meanwhile, Ishur Soma observes with a sinister smile. He's not happy that Frey stole his prey, but it looks like he's found another. He's noticed that Harrier's movements look just like the skeletons. Ishur Soma isn't worried. He knows Frey can't beat Benlira. He glances at Murin and Harrier, calling them a mere appetizer before the main course. "Come at me, northern rookies," he yells, challenging them directly. He unleashes his own technique, Doan-style wolf howl, sending out a massive shockwave. Murin cracks a joke about Harrier's glow-up, but he tells her to get used to it. They fight as a team now. For Harrier, everything has changed. He feels a strange new clarity, a world without fear. With this newfound freedom, he moves effortlessly, weaving through a storm of energy slashes. Soma watches, annoyed. Harrier's agility is bringing back some bad memories for him. Losing his patience, Soma unleashes another attack, Doan-style wolf hunt, but Harrier sees an opening. The technique seems to leave Soma winded. This is his chance. He screams for Murin, who immediately understands and shouts back, "Okay." Harrier yells, "Go," and launches himself through the air like a weapon, straight at their enemy. But a sinister, toothy grin spreads across his face. Harrier's eyes go wide. Oops. Soma reveals his attack isn't over. He unleashes the next phase, wolf hunt howling, and at that moment Harrier feels his life about to end. His life flashes before him. He remembers his childhood playing happily with Murin. He always loved stories of northern warriors ever since he was a child. Was it because of his mom? But Murin interrupts his thoughts.
He whispers.
Then, she hangs limp, impaled through the chest. My friends, she took the blow for Harrier. But as Murin falls, the real war is raging elsewhere. On the snow-covered mountains, the ground trembles from a titanic clash. Frey lands gracefully, dodging a massive attack from Benlira. Benlira gives her zero breathing room, immediately charging back into the fight. Frey parries with her enormous blade, the impact sending sparks everywhere. Benlira flips clean over her head, dodging a wide swing meant to cut her in half. But Frey is relentless. Her attacks are a blur, forcing Benlira completely on the defensive. Frey plants her foot, digging into the earth to unleash a powerful new technique. Benlira looks on, confused. What is this new stance? Frey leaps high into the air and brings her sword down, screaming out her attack. The axis of the earth. Horizon breaker. The blast wave engulfs everything in its path, sending Benlira flying. The force slams her hard against the side of the mountain. She looks back at the carnage. Frey approaches, each step crunching on the bodies of the fallen. You actually took that hit on purpose? She asks why she didn't just dodge it. Was she trying to protect the soldiers behind her? To Frey, the idea of protecting your allies is just strange and pathetic. Benlira just points at her. You're talking nonsense. And why are you stepping all over your comrades? Frey looks down, genuinely confused for a moment. Then, she just bursts out laughing, calling the corpses she's stepping on just lumps of meat. Benlira is speechless. Frey gets serious, saying she has a question for her. She's noticed Benlira has been deliberately alternating hands, even pulling back her sword to throw a punch. Why use your fists one at a time, she asks. She can't quite put a finger on it, but something keeps breaking the flow of her opponent's combat. She wonders if Benlira is confused, or if her old party role is holding her back somehow. With a knowing smirk, she puts all the pieces together. You're a rogue, right? Benlira seems surprised. She admits Frey is pretty smart for someone who looks like a brute. But Frey isn't done. She points out that he keeps glancing back at his allies in the distance. You may look like small fry, but you're actually a knight commander, aren't you? Suddenly, Frey leaps and closes the gap between them in the blink of an eye. Still want to keep looking away from me? She asks. In an instant, she releases a devastating blow that cleaves everyone around her. Frey taunts Benlira, asking how she'll manage to slip away this time. But Benlira doesn't run. She ducks under her wild swing, and with a lightning-fast slash slices clean through Frey's leg. Though wounded, Frey barely even flinches, her eyes still locked on her target. She unleashes a powerful counterslash of her own, catching Benlira completely off guard. Benlira mutters under her breath, impressed. She can't believe the crazy woman counterattacked even with a sliced leg. Frey's leaving a lot of openings, but the depth was shallow. Ah, if she only had her original blades instead of this demon sword. Frey pushes her hair back. She still can't get a read on Benlira's movements. Strange, full of holes and weird pauses. She taunts her, asking if her sword is too heavy. Why is she struggling so much against her? But Benlira isn't even listening. Her gaze is fixed elsewhere, on Harrier, holding the body of Murin. Frey notices her attention has wandered. Again, enraged that Benlira is not focusing on her, she clenches her fist and lands a blow. Again, Benlira is sent flying. As Benlira tumbles through the wreckage, Frey calls her heartless. She yells at her for ignoring the hundreds dying around them, only caring about her own lackeys. A dark, internal voice whispers to Benlira, "This is the most relatable thing that Witch has said. Truly you are heartless." It hisses, mocking her for failing to save the fallen soldiers. The voice tells her to look at the endless slaughter, all a result of human greed. Give up and accept it, it says. She was once a hero who fought for humans, only to be discarded by them. In the end, she will end up swinging her sword against them. But another voice cuts through the despair. My friends, it's a memory of Muran. She asks why Benlira is apologizing for the war and blaming herself for bringing it here. She laughs it off. Why are you making it your fault they invaded? They are the bad guys. And as warriors, they just fight to protect their own. It's not her fault. She reminds Benlira that she called herself a warrior from the north, just like them. It's simple then. With the will of the north, we warriors have to step onto the battlefield. Murin's final words echo in her mind. Don't blame yourself anymore. With newfound resolve, she remembers. It's been so long she'd forgotten. She was also a northern warrior once upon a time. Even if her comrades fall on the battlefield, she mustn't hesitate, because she carries the will of all who have fallen. Visions of her old party flashed through his mind. They were only strong when they stood together. The memory of a young, smiling boy, the hero, solidifies her resolve completely. But Frey has had enough of his monologue. Muttering to yourself is disgusting. She slams her blade down, sending a shockwave that completely shatters the ground. Benlira doesn't even flinch, and launches a counterattack of her own. A spray of blood suddenly erupts from a slash through her body. Frey's eyes widen in shock. She's not holding one sword anymore. Benlira's weapon has split into two glowing daggers. You ask why the flow keeps breaking? Benlira thunders. Spinning like a whirlwind of death, she declares, this is the answer. She unleashes the mountain boar crushing slash, a brutal attack that sends Frey flying. Now it finally clicks for Frey. Her face twists into a feral grin. Benlira was originally a dual sword wielder. Benlira answers with a massive cross-shaped blast of pure purple energy. The attack is a blinding flurry of slashes, tearing right through the mountainside. Frey can't believe it. This idiot thinks she can win just because she has another sword. A shadowy form looms over her, calling her a pitiful human. He mocks her, a knight of war who has never actually known the true pain of death. You are arrogant, yet pitiable, he tells her. Furious, Frey is blasted backward, screaming, "Don't you dare look down on me." Benlira lunges forward to press her advantage, but suddenly senses an immense dark power. Frey unleashes her ultimate technique, the spiral-style heavenly axis, heaven and earth splitter. To counter, Benlira must recall her past glory, the moment she defeated the Demon King. She has to perfectly recreate the single sharp strike that once felled a god. She unleashes her own ultimate move, the northern-style hunting technique. Far below, the raging battle grinds to a halt. Every soldier, friend and foe stares up at the mountains. The two attacks collide, and the entire mountaintop is sheared clean off. The final attack's name echoes across the battlefield, Evil Annihilation Quake. The Ascalon Dragon Slayer slash, the mountaintop is gone. In the deafening silence, Harrier tells Muran it's going to be fine. But his eyes betray him, revealing nothing but pure desperation. He desperately tries to hold her mangled body together, but it's no use. She coughs up a spray of blood. Her life is fading with every single drop. He panics, screaming at her not to talk, but the bleeding just won't stop. His mind is racing, begging her wounds to close, for everything to just go back inside. Kneeling in a pool of her blood, he can only plead for her not to die. And of course, the villain shows up to kick him while he's down. Soma looms over them, mocking his pain. He calls Harrier a pathetic, whining little brat. And just like that, Harrier's grief twists into pure murderous rage. "I'll kill you," he says. Clutching Mirren, he makes a vow. "I will absolutely kill you myself." Soma takes the bait, his face twisting in fury as he strikes Harrier's head. Harrier takes the blow head-on, his focus completely unbroken. Soma lectures him about justice, calling him a brainless barbarian. But just as he's about to land the finishing blow, a new player enters the game. A massive impact kicks up a cloud of snow. The attack was blocked. "If we're barbarians," a familiar voice says, "then you must be some kind of monkey." Harrier can only stare in disbelief. Right on cue, his master has arrived. Soma absolutely loses it, screaming Benlira's name in a rage-fueled frenzy. Benlira calmly tells her student to cool his head. She's here to buy some time. Soma scoffs, mocking Benlira for finding a new pet dog so soon after the hero's death. Benlira simply counters, "That crazy red witch earlier asked if I felt any pity for the dying Imperial soldiers. They too have homes and families waiting for them." She admits she felt a little guilt. But in war it's simple, kill or be killed. Facing Soma, her resolve is set. "Yeah," he says, "war is heartless, isn't it?" And with that, she attacks, crashing into Soma with absolute brutal force. Her purpose is simple now. Annihilate enemies, protect comrades. No more hesitation. She looks to her student and tells him, "Now you must decide too, Harrier." While Benlira clashes with Soma, Harrier desperately screams for a medic. But Murin stops him. She tells him not to worry about her, to go help his master. She grips his arm, reminding him of his duty. He has to join the fight. Help Miss Skeleton and don't forget your role. Her last thoughts are for him. She wants him to live and fulfill the future they dreamed of. With a final silent plea for him to go, her hand falls limp. Harrier cries out in anguish, his last shred of hope completely shattered. Her final wish was for him to protect everyone. She leaves it all to her chief. Sensing the change, Benlira goes on the offensive, unleashing the frosty grand brawl. Soma just laughs, mocking Benlira's nerfed attacks after his fight with Frey. He twists the knife, asking if she's worried her new student is about to have a mental breakdown. Benlira blocks the next swing with his bare hand. "Harrier will not break," she states. Soma calls her stupid right before Benlira sends him flying with a devastating counter. Soma lashes out with a kick, sneering that baseless hope only destroys people. Benlira catches it easily. "Bull," she says. She declares it's not encouragement, it's hope. Her student won't be blinded by rage like she was. But just as she braces for the next attack, a jolt of pain shoots through him. The debuff from his fight with Frey is kicking in at the worst possible time. Soma sees his opening and grins wickedly. "Caught you." But as the sword comes down, Harrier flashes in, intercepting the blow and saving his master. The force of the parry is so strong it sends Soma stumbling back into the snow. Harrier thanks him for buying time, explaining he's finally cooled his head. Soma gets to his feet, clutching a fresh wound on his chest, and absolutely seethes. "I will absolutely kill you," he screams. But Harrier is ice cold and simply declares player switch. As he faces Soma, Harrier can only think of his oldest friend. He knows he has so much to apologize for, starting from the day they first met. He's always been grateful, and always been sorry. As he clashes with his enemy, he repeats it. "I'm sorry, Murin." Soma's heavy blade crashes into his shield, but he grits his teeth and pushes forward. "I have to apologize over and over." Their blades meet in a violent explosion of force, splattering blood across the snow. In a shocking move, both Harrier and Soma are impaled on each other's blades. Soma slaps Harrier hard. He screams, "Let go! Are you planning to die with me?" But Harrier's resolve is absolute. Muran, I will live for your dream. He lets out a primal scream, channeling all his grief and rage into this one moment. He plunges the sword deeper into Soma. But Soma pulls out his sword. Benlira screams his name in alarm as the impaled Soma makes one last desperate swing. But Harrier is calm now. He easily dodges and slices back, sending Soma backwards. Suddenly, Benlira's sword hits him from behind. Soma curses, utterly defeated. Behind him, Benlira screams, Harrier now. On cue, magic circle bursts into life from the ground. Turns out the Northerners were playing 4D chess this whole time. The master plan was to lure the enemy into a narrow pass and bury them alive. Soma finally realizes it. They were walking into a trap from the very beginning. Harrier stands over the fallen knight, declaring, this is the end. He readies his ultimate move. In his mind, he offers a bouquet of white flowers to Muran. He unleashes his final attack. Flame Lance, Death Vicious Hound unleashed, and it's a direct hit. As the vision of flowers fades, he says his final words to her. Goodbye, Muran. Harrier stands alone in the vast snowfield. Suddenly he hears a voice and turns. It's Benlira screaming his name. Behind, the whole mountain is about to crash down. Benlira screams his name as she leaps towards him. Unbeknownst to them, someone is watching from afar through a crystal ball. The mysterious observer wonders, why have you only started moving now? Benlira Edwards, calling her full name. The battle for the northern mountains is officially over. The Empire sent 1,000 soldiers to raid the range, and they got absolutely folded. Both Escher Soma's vanguard and Frey's squad were completely wiped out. What about the other 400 troops waiting in the back? Yeah, they got deleted too. The northern chieftain of the Hawker tribe scoffs at their strategy. She calls them fools for starting a war when they should be trying to survive together. Her massive companion agrees, saying he'll never understand the people from the lowlands. And get this, these two absolute units single-handedly took down the entire Imperial force by themselves. A total skill issue. With the battle won, the order is given. They'll ignore the retreating cowards and search for their own survivors. Meanwhile, Benlira's undead soldiers march with purpose across the snow. They stop in front of the survivor. The man recognizes familiar faces among the undead. As if on command, the entire resurrected army disintegrate, blown away by the wind. Benlira is in awe. Her necromancy merely moves the dead. Usually they are only corpses without memory. But these soldiers were different. They had will. They stood beside their living comrades like they had in life. Deeply moved, the survivor declares that he must offer them thanks and a proper burial. But the chieftain Red Silk cuts him off. If you plan on a funeral, stop. These men fell on this battlefield. He explains that to rest where you fall is a warrior's highest honor. Silk explains that the families will make graves out of their belongings. It is their people's way of giving back to the land. Right, Benlira murmurs, because that's the kind of people we are. Red Silk then approaches Harrier, who is kneeling in the snow, and places a hand on his shoulder. He praises Harrier and Muran for standing on the front lines, calling them true warriors of the North. I sincerely apologize, Red Silk admits, for failing to realize your abilities. He asks what Harrier has left after losing so much. Harrier just clenches his fist, feeling a new kind of weight. Red Silk tells him to return to the village. A festival awaits to honor their fallen heroes. At night, the village explodes with fireworks and a massive celebration. Warriors drink and toast, sharing epic stories of their fallen comrades' bravery. But Harrier, bruised and battered, sits quietly. He admits to himself he kinda missed these festival-like funerals. He thinks back to the funerals down south, where everyone just cried and grieved. Benlira asks if he knows why northern funerals are so grand. It's because they live so close to death. She tells Harrier that weeping is just too sad of an ending, and that Muran would prefer his smile over his tears. Harrier looks up, his resolve hardening. He says Muran's dream has been entrusted to him now. He can't fall apart, that would be disrespectful. With a slight smirk, he adds, she'd probably smack me right on the head. Benlira agrees. It wouldn't just be Muran who'd be angry, but also her old friends, her family. They'd all be mad if she let herself get blinded by rage. She then apologizes to Harrier that she couldn't be there during Muran's final moments. She was afraid she would lose herself. It's important that they keep living as themselves. They have to remember the fallen and move forward. And there it is, folks. Instead of the easy path of vengeance, Benlira is choosing the thorny path of a hero. She tells Harrier to smile for Muran. Harrier smiles and agrees. Benlira tells him to go eat. She has something to handle before stepping away. As his master leaves, Harrier finally understands. He can see his master's true state. He realizes Benlira is unstable. She is constantly on the verge of reverting to the killer she once was, weighed down by everyone's wishes. Looking at his master's back, Harrier wonders to himself, what should he do? 2 days later, Benlira and Harrier stand before a council of the tribal chieftains. Red Silk explains that a few tribes are still on their way, but one of the leaders greets them. Greetings, undead from below. I am Dako Rexar of the Dawn Sky Tiger tribe. Harrier is completely stunned. He's only ever read about this legendary tribe in books. Rexar says their shaman saw Benlira's future, and they came all this way just to deliver one item. The shaman places a small purple wooden tablet in Benlira's hand. Take it, you will certainly need it someday. Benlira accepts it, and the shaman shakes her hand, addressing her with a single cryptic word, ancestor. The shaman asks her about the path she has chosen, wondering what past could lead to such a future. Watching this, Red Silk is completely lost. Ancestor, what are you even talking about? The shaman just gives a knowing smile. She's surprised Red Silk is clueless. She tells Benlira it is fine and promises to keep her secret safe. She addresses Benlira by her full name and pledges the strength of their tribe to the cause. Red Silk chimes in, confirming that with 3 major tribes on board, he'll get the rest of the chieftains to join. With the alliance settled, Red Silk announces there is one final matter to discuss. The clanking of chains echoes as a guard leads out their prisoner. It's Frey, the Knight of War, completely shackled. She spots Benlira immediately and calls out, "Hey, Mr. Skeleton. Still thinks she's a guy, huh?" A wild, ecstatic grin spreads across her face as she makes a completely insane request. "Let me join you in your war." Benlira just stares, trying to figure out her angle. This is definitely not some random prank. Frey smirks and cuts right to it. "I'm defecting. That is why I let you guys catch me." Harrier is having none of it. He immediately shouts, "Don't you dare trust this maniac." He reminds everyone she is one of the Empire's 4 knights, a key player in this whole mess. Harrier lays out her twisted strategy. She builds up kingdoms just to crush them for fun. The woman is literally addicted to war. Benlira's reaction? So, a complete lunatic. And Frey just bursts out laughing like a psycho. She is not even sorry, says the colonies were weak anyway, so starting a war was a piece of cake. Benlira ignores the crazy and gets to the point. Just one question. Why us? Her answer is chillingly simple. You said it yourself, skeleton. War. Then she starts dissing their army. A skeleton, some zombies, and a bunch of furballs. Not exactly a super team. She asks if they seriously think that can take on the entire empire and its massive legions. A chieftain hits her with the obvious follow-up. So why would you join the losing side? With a terrifying grin, Frey spills her real reason. Because your side looks way more fun. She explains that stomping weaklings is boring. The real thrill is an even fight, or better yet, being the underdog. For her, it is a storm of chaos on the battlefield, a pure adrenaline rush. She calls it a symphony of destruction. Yeah, this lady is completely unhinged. Harrier is losing his mind. Did you hear that? You cannot possibly accept this monster. But Benlira calmly cuts in. Frey, get ready. You're going to be used as a mercenary. Frey is ecstatic, but one of the chieftains slams the table, yelling, "Have you lost your mind?" He points out she is their #1 war criminal. Benlira cannot just make this call alone. Benlira is completely unfazed. I know her type. War addicts. They only care about the fight itself. She turns to Harrier, telling him to chill out. She gets the anger, but it is time to think smart. Nobody is asking you to forgive her, but do not let your rage cloud your judgment. She explains that winning a war means being cold, ruthless, and iron-willed. Then she hits Harrier with a reality check. Did you think this was some heroic fairy tale? Are you upset we are hiring butchers to win? And then she asks a simple, piercing question. Does it bother you? Dako Rexar backs her up. Emotions are a liability on the battlefield. You have to be cold to win. Benlira lays out her own philosophy. To protect her people and crush the empire, she would make a deal with a demon if it meant victory. No hesitation. Her words land like a hammer. She tells Harrier to remember this lesson if he ever leads his people. This is what it means to be a commander, a general. The lesson hits home. Harrier clenches his fist and admits he was being foolish. Frey is actually impressed. Looks like you have seen a war or two. Skeleton. Benlira's reply is ice cold. A war or two? I spent my entire life in them. The council is still not sold. Frey is a wild card who could betray them at any second. So one of them asks Benlira the big question. You have a way to control her, right? Benlira smirks. Ah, right. I remember hearing about a way to handle unruly beasts. And for the first time, Frey actually looks nervous. Oh, she is cooking something good. The buff chieftain gives in. Fine, we will try it your way. He calls for a short break. As everyone files out, Frey gets sent back to her cell. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a door creaks open. A woman with white hair and serious battle scars steps out. Turns out it is Harrier's mom. She is talking to Van Son, and she is not in the mood for small talk. She has heard Harrier finally drop the shield and started training with other weapons. She takes a puff from her pipe and smiles. Looks like he takes after his father more than me. Then she gives Van Son a sword. Give this to Harrier. It belonged to his father, a legendary swordsman. She realizes that Harrier only picked up the shield to be like her. She admits a heavy regret. I should have spent more time with my child. As she watches him leave, she whispers, Go and see more of the world, son. The tribe will always stand behind you. A bit later, Harrier visits Moran's grave. He thinks about how Benlira is already planning the next step, always focused on her big dream of bringing peace to the continent. And compared to that, Harrier feels like he is totally lacking. He is kicking himself for losing his cool back at the meeting. He remembers the goal Moran passed down to him to become the next chieftain. He realizes anything less would be an insult to Moran's memory. So he sets a new goal, not just chieftain. He is going to become the high chieftain of all the northern tribes. He plants a banner at her grave, making a promise. Wait for me, Moran. I will make you proud. Bro just unlocked his next evolution. The determination is real. Right on cue, Van Son shows up with the sword from his mom. He explains it is a gift from the chieftain, his father's legendary blade. Harrier draws the sword, taking in the weight of his family's legacy. Van Son is beaming with pride. With this resolve, you would easily pass the Great Hunt. He knows Harrier is destined to become a legendary warrior of the North, but he also knows that is a future goal. For now, he has got a journey with Benlira. He tells Harrier to go. Traveling with a master strategist like Benlira is a priceless opportunity. The Great Hunt can wait. Van Son sends him off with a smile and a peace sign. Harrier thanks him, gripping his new sword. He is ready for whatever comes next. As he gets ready to go, he asks Van Son to hold down the fort. Van Son agrees but asks where Benlira is. Turns out the big strategy meeting is still going on. Back in the war room, Red Silk points out a huge problem. They have no ships. Did someone say Navy? Because 3 absolute units just crashed the party. They strike a ridiculous pose and announce the Deep Blue Sea tribe is here to help. Benlira is just confused. Red Silk explains these are the legendary sea ghosts, the only tribe with a real navy. Their one weakness, they are not the sharpest tools in the shed. Their leader grabs Benlira, hyped for a simple plan. He is roaring with excitement, ready to sail the open seas and take them anywhere they need to go. There is just one tiny problem. Benlira, currently being crushed, tells him they are going by land. The big guy's brain short-circuits, not the sea, and the entire tribe collapses in despair. Red Silk wants to know why she is taking the hard route. Benlira says she has a quick stop to make. Dako Rexar immediately figures out where. Turns out they are heading to the very town where Harrier's new sword was forged. It used to be just a nameless street, but now it is known as the Street of Artisans. Our heroes are leaving the icy north for a world of fire and steel. But before they venture into that world of fire and steel, Chieftain Red Silk sees them off with his final orders. He gives Benlira a firm handshake, wishing her peace. Benlira returns the sentiment, but Red Silk isn't done yet. He pulls Harrier aside for some one-on-one teacher talk. He tells Harrier to remember something important. Benlira might be a legend, but deep down she's still human. She wavers. She needs support. Red Silk explains that Benlira is in a constant war with herself. She's always fighting off whispers of rage and despair. To carry this burden, Benlira had to lock away her emotions. She became cold and rational out of pure necessity. Red Silk drops some wisdom. Anyone who can endure all that without breaking is what you call a true hero. That one word hits Harrier like a truck, a hero. And since Benlira's old crew is gone, it's now Harrier's job to be her rock. Harrier, now filled with a new sense of purpose, is all in. And so, their journey begins. Of course, it doesn't take long for Frey to start complaining. Benlira is completely unfazed. She tells the former knight to quit whining and just deal with it. Frey throws a full-on tantrum, wailing about getting to the war already. Harrier is not amused, and so begins the world's most bizarre road trip. The crew travels past giant dino unicorns and massive purple worms. They cross treacherous mountains and fields of monsters, pushing on day and night under the stars. Finally, they make camp. Benlira holds up their dinner for the night. A very unlucky rabbit. Later that night, sitting by the fire, Free has a question for Mr. Skeleton. She wants to know how Benlira found out the secret about their, quote, kids. You said so yourself, that you heard something, Frey says. Benlira wonders why Frey waited so long to ask. Turns out she was just waiting for Harrier to be out of earshot. Well, she'd heard some stories from a friend. She wasn't sure, so after their battle, she went back to ask someone in person. Eshur Soma. He begins this long-winded story about how his father killed his mother in secret and made to look like she was poisoned by their enemies. Thanks to his mother's sacrifice, they became one of the most powerful among the noble families. It's the same with your disciple, Soma explains. Her death was necessary, just like his mother's. But the difference between them was he humbly accepted it, while Benlira could not. Throughout this, Benlira just sits and listens patiently, letting the defeated knight have his final say. Soma admits he once thought Benlira was a fool, but now he finally gets it. He claims Benlira didn't want revenge. She just needed an excuse to keep living in a world she should have already left. Benlira has heard enough. Shut up. A teacher who needed her disciple's death to start a war? How absurd. Benlira's tone turns ice cold. She warns him that her silence is not forgiveness. He will pay the price for harming 2 of her disciples, even in death. Soma just spits blood and laughs, finally realizing Muran must have died too. He mocks the northern warriors for their loyalty, laughing at how Muran threw her life away for Harrier. He even has the nerve to ask for thanks, claiming that killing Muran is what made Harrier stronger. Soma keeps talking. Listen, Skeleton. Everyone gets hurt, but after a few days they move on and return to their ordinary lives. Can this dude get even more evil? I did so. You did not. This is the clear difference between you and me. Yes. That's why this whole mess happened, Benlira replies, lifting Soma up and revealing that there's only half of him left. He grabs Soma by the throat. Letting him live before was a mistake. One she's about to correct, thoroughly. Oh, but hold up. She wants to ask him a few questions. Back at the campfire, Frey is skeptical. She asks if Soma really told him everything. Yup, he explained quite well. Benlira casually replies, but Frey isn't buying it. Soma isn't the type to just spill his guts. Is that so? Well, I asked politely. Benlira replies, as she slices up their dinner. And he answered politely. She finishes, meat all sliced up neatly on the board. What happened next? Frey asks. Benlira just silently goes about cooking dinner. The memory of Soma's final, agonizing moments floats through her brain as she stirs the pot. Suddenly, Frey chuckles. Benlira asks, what's so funny? Oh, nothing. I'm just looking forward to what's coming next. Just then, Harrier returns with supplies. Frey mentions that Harrier probably thinks of Benlira as a hero. She grins. Kill one, you're a murderer. Kill 10,000 and you're called a hero. She can't wait for his disciple to realize this truth. She promises to watch from the sidelines until the very end. Benlira simply agrees. She stirs the stew, telling Frey to watch closely. Watch closely how I end, she says, as a star streaks across the sky. After a long and grueling journey, they finally arrive at the way station village of Livret. Harrier explains they can resupply here, but Frey suddenly stops them. Frey, now in some frilly clothes, starts complaining again. She hates the uncomfortable outfit and wants to change back. Benlira immediately shuts her down. Does she want to advertise that one of the Empire's 4 knights is with them? She warns her not to cause a scene. They'll get what they need and leave quietly. Harrier wonders if they should sneak in, but Benlira says getting caught would be an even bigger headache. Benlira tells him not to worry so much, giving a confident thumbs up. There's no way my perfect disguise will be seen through. You sure about that, my friend? In a few seconds, they're immediately surrounded by guards with spears pointed right at their faces. The guards immediately draw their blades, shouting that the newcomers reek of the undead. But Benlira, in her ridiculous little disguise, just tilts her head and plays dumb. Just as things are about to pop off, another guard steps in, telling his men to stand down and taking charge. He introduces himself as Man Gil, a guard of Rivulet Village, and tells our crew to follow him. Seems he knows what's up. As they walk, Man Gil reveals he's heard the stories about the ghost of Spear Tower Village. Turns out he used to be an adventurer with the Northern Guild and still keeps tabs on his old buddies. He drops a bombshell. He heard a wild rumor that some undead convinced the guild leader to rebel against the Empire. He guesses they're headed for the Craftsman's Street and offers to give them the inside scoop. Benlira gratefully accepts his offer. Man Gil waves it off, saying he has to be somewhere. He tells them to meet him at the bar after sunset. Benlira asks if they can stick with him. She knows they'll be arrested otherwise. Meanwhile, Frey and Harrier are bickering like children. Man Gil just shrugs it off with a simple, suit yourself. A while later, they are sitting in a stone amphitheater, listening to a bard's song about a boy's journey. The song is about a young warrior's dreams clashing with the harsh reality of growing older. Man Gil comments that the song is hopeful, but also pretty bitter. He then turns to Benlira and says the song is about them. The guards. It's about young adventurers who hunted dragons, only to grow old and realize their own limits. He says those dreamers become guards like him, and listening to this song is their daily ritual. It's one of the only things that comforts old warriors who've been surpassed by the next generation. But Benlira hits him with some wisdom. She says the important thing is to keep moving forward. She warns that if you stop chasing your dreams, you end up at the exact same destination as everyone else. Man Gil is stunned. He says Benlira speaks as if she's lived 1,000 lifetimes. Benlira just puts a hand on his shoulder and calmly replies, I have. She stands up, tells Man Gil they'll wait at the inn, and offers to buy him dinner for some info. Harrier is excited. It's been a while since they've had a proper meal. But Frey grumbles that Benlira is offering to buy dinner with her money. Man Gil just watches them go, thinking to himself that they are one strange group of people. As the sun sets, casting a blood-red glow across the sky, Man Gil remains seated, lost in thought. He grips his spear, deciding it's finally time to get moving. But suddenly the bard's voice surprises him. She points out he always stays late after her shows. He's completely flustered as she asks him if he could escort her home. Walking through the village, Man Gil nervously says his buddies would freak out if they saw this. She thinks it's funny, but he explains that she's basically a celebrity among the guards. He calls them a bunch of old losers, then asks why she chose him out of all her fans. She explains that while others look regretful, his eyes still have a faint, dreamy glow to them. She says he has innocent, childlike eyes, like a warrior from a fairy tale. And she finishes with, that's why I like you. Man Gil freezes, repeating her words, childlike eyes, I guess I'm still. It finally clicks. He whips around, demanding to know what she just said. The bard just smirks, teasing him for being so slow on the uptake. And before he can even process it, she grabs his hand. He's a stuttering mess as she drags him along, announcing that this is officially a date. Meanwhile, back at the inn, a very confused Benlira is still waiting. So that's what happened, explains a blushing Man Gil. Later, Man Gil unfurls a map on the table as a stoic Benlira watches with arms crossed. The inn is absolutely buzzing with energy. People are dancing, doing acrobatics, and drinking. It's a chaotic, joyous scene filled with adventurers just cutting loose and having a good time. A memory surfaces. Benlira lets out a quiet sigh of relief, just soaking in the peaceful atmosphere. Harrier comes over with drinks, pointing out that it's been a long time since he's seen his teacher smile. Benlira just says she was remembering a very happy memory from a long time ago. Harrier asks if he's thinking about his first student. He then reveals that he actually met her once. He remembers being on a deadly solo mission, getting wrecked by a monster when she suddenly appeared. She was unbelievably strong, with god-tier skills. She saved him without a second thought, a true hero. Benlira listens quietly, holding her drink. Harrier admits that ever since the war, he's become confused about what justice and evil even mean anymore. He started questioning the very meaning of war, and what was truly the right thing to do. He looks over at the happy new couple, wishing everyone could just live their lives peacefully. He wonders how different things would be if everyone could just be born into an era of peace. Benlira turns to him and explains that to obtain this ordinary life, she started a war to end all wars. It's ironic, but she can't think of any other way. She believes that if blood is shed now, true peace will follow. She will take on all the sins so everyone else can have the blessings. She says it's a prayer she makes every single time she steps onto the battlefield. Of course, she adds, holding up 2 fingers. This is the second time. When Harrier asks what happened the first time, Benlira bluntly says it failed. The peace only lasted about 100 years. That's why she has to fight now, so the next era can be peaceful. And she'll be the one to do the dirty work. Looking up at the inn, Harrier quietly tells his master, "I respect you." Benlira just cheekily asks for more compliments. But on this peaceful night, about 112 kilometers away, the ground begins to shake. A massive horde of monsters appears from the darkness, an estimated 300 of them. But back in the town of Livret, everyone is completely oblivious. And Gil gets all flustered as the bard thanks him for the escort. He just awkwardly waves goodbye, a massive, love-struck grin plastered all over his face. His buddy Mardur immediately starts teasing him, saying he finally got a girlfriend. Mardur just can't believe it. He wonders how a guy like Mangil managed to land the town's idol, but Mangil swears he didn't do anything special. As the day passes, things look normal as the guards do their guardy things. Later, talk gets serious as his friend asks Mangil about his plans for the future. He points out that with the Empire's protection gone, trying to build a family here is a massive risk. Mardur grimly concludes that in this era, a happy family is nothing more than a pipe dream. Mangil isn't hearing any of it. He says the era doesn't matter one bit. He declares, as long as I'm with her, any era is fine for me. My man is down bad, but this hopeful moment is instantly shattered. A rider stumbles into the village. He collapses, his hand dripping with blood as he falls unconscious. Over at the Adventurers Guild, someone points out a blood-soaked notice, recognizing it from the messenger. Mangil's face goes pale. A monster wave already wiped out the next village, and it'll be here in under 30 minutes. Benlira seems confused. Monster wave? Doesn't sound like a big deal. They used to easily keep that check. But Mangil corrects her. This isn't some simple culling anymore. This is a full-blown natural disaster. Back in the day, adventurers and knights would handle these things, but those days are long gone. The Empire has walled itself off in the capital, leaving all the rural villages to fend for themselves. Mangil explains that it's now up to the adventurers to protect their own crumbling hometowns. It's just them and the local sentries left to defend everything they have. And as villages die, so does the next generation of heroes. They are all that's left. Suddenly, the inn door flies open. A panicked guard bursts in, yelling, "This is bad." He confirms it. A monster wave has been spotted at the western wall. Mangil orders everyone to arm themselves. The alarm spreads like wildfire. Wake everyone up. Evacuate the civilians. Go, go, go. Benlira grabs Mangil. There's no time to talk. She quickly scratches a battle plan. Mangil looks at them and says, "All right, I'm counting on you." Elsewhere, a few adventurers are checking out the notice board. They realize it's a state-issued suicide mission. That means no reward for taking on these monsters. The dude Guastatori, rocking a sick gas mask, notes that anyone in it for the money is gonna bail. Mangil tells him to stop thinking and just grab his weapon. It's time to fight. Then, he turns to leave, his eyes burning with insane intensity. "This is our village. We will protect it." The battle begins. A massive tusked monster roars as Mangil charges in to face it head-on. He leaps into the air, plunging his weapon deep into the beast's shoulder. Using the spear as a lever, he vaults onto its back and locks it down, yelling he can't hold it for long. "I know," Guastatori yells, hurling 2 vials that shatter right against the monster's face. The chemicals cause a violent reaction, melting its flesh as the beast shrieks in absolute agony. The beast collapses. But Mangil realizes every single monster in this wave is on another level. Curses the Empire. The battlefield is swarming with even stronger beasts. The intel they gave was a total lie. Suddenly, the ground trembles. A massive, clawed foot slams down, revealing the wave's true boss. It's a wyvern, an actual wyvern, Panic erupts as the soldiers scream that they have to retreat. One guy tries to rally them, but another just screams they're all gonna die. Mangil's hope fades. The village is finished. But in that moment of despair, he remembers the smiling face of the woman he loves. His helmet clatters to the ground. His resolve is reforged in an instant. He knows what he has to do. Back in the village, the evacuation is a mad scramble. Guards are yelling for everyone to stay calm and head for the north gate. The bard frantically asks a guard where Mangil is, but the poor guy has no idea. But then Guastatori appears. He tells her he's still fighting the monsters. Guard grabs him, demanding to know what he means. Guastatori quietly replies, "He said he'd buy us time." Alone on the battlefield, a bloodied Mangil lets out one last defiant roar and charges the wyvern. With a desperate shout, Mangil drives his spear into the colossal wyvern's hide, but his attack just bounces right off. He barely even scratched the thing. He's not giving up. He slashes the beast's leg. The wyvern thrashes wildly, its claws tearing up the ground where he was just standing. But Mangil manages to evade. He begins to channel every last drop of his remaining power. He pours all his mana into one final, desperate, all-or-nothing attack. He unleashes his ultimate technique, magic spearmanship, total lightning strike. His face is completely scorched, but the attack connects, sending the wyvern reeling backwards. Barely able to stand, he pants, wondering if he was too late to save them. He remembers the bard, the one who actually believed in his pathetic little dream. Her memory gives him one last surge of strength. Clenching his bleeding side, he declares, "Now, I won't give up." The final battle cry, he leaps back into the fray to face the entire horde alone. He remembers the heroes he read about in stories. Once he had witnessed a hero who defeated a dragon and saved a village and rescued a princess. He spots a cyclops aiming for him with a devastating punch. But Mangil drives his spear right through the monster's eye. But hold up, a scummy goblin sneaks up and stabs him right in the back. He flings the creature away. Ignoring the new wound, he drives the spear deeper into the cyclops' head and brings it crashing down. But he's losing way too much blood. Leaning on his spear for support, he knows this is the end, but he doesn't care. Even if he were to die today, the dragon was dead, and he saved his princess. Job done. Suddenly, a storm of attacks tears through the battlefield, a showcase of legendary fighting styles obliterating the monster horde. "Gah, I think I just got a piece of monster in my mouth," Harrier cries out. "Think of it as protein and eat it. Might make your brain grow a bit bigger," Frey shoots back. "You two don't fight in a situation like this," orders Benlira. Then she faces Mangil. "Yo, Sentry, you're quite strong holding down this many monsters by yourself." Mangil is hit by a surreal sense of deja vu. "Thanks to you, it was easy for us to dig in from the flank, and the villagers were able to evacuate safely. Splendid, Sentry. You've accomplished more than the duty you were given. Now rest," Benlira commands, "and leave the rest of the rabble to us." For Mangil, the scene is just unbelievable. He watches Benlira tear through the horde, and Frey is right behind her, laughing like a maniac. Monsters that took dozens of men to kill are getting sliced up like soft tofu. It's an absolute massacre. But watching this carnage, Mangil isn't afraid. He feels like a kid watching a real-life hero for the very first time. His heart is just filled with absolute, unfiltered awe. Benlira walks over, noticing the change. "Yesterday your eyes were empty," she says, "but now they're completely different." Harrier walks up. "Those are the eyes of a man who's found something worth protecting." He explains there's a huge difference between just dying for someone and choosing to protect them, even if it costs you everything. And to prove his point, Harrier whips out a rope dart. He launches it straight at a massive red beast. The dart sinks deep, punching right through the creature's thick, scaly hide. As he pulls the rope tight, he gives Mangil one last piece of advice. "Don't have regrets, not like I did." Mangil is just standing there thinking, what does that even mean? No time to explain, Harrier uses the rope to swing into the air, landing a flying kick right on the monster's neck. He then channels the northern-style succession technique, falling flower. Harrier lands, catching his breath. "I still can't do it like Muran," he mutters. But there is no time for a break. The remaining monsters see an opening and start to swarm him. Suddenly Frey comes in, taking the head clean off the closest one with a single slice. Too easy. She laughs gleefully as she carves through the enemies. Harrier yells at her to watch where she is going. "It's dangerous." Frey just scoffs at him. "Who are you to lecture me? Only weaklings need to be careful. I am one of the Empire's 4 Knights of War," she cackles. And then, suddenly, chomp, she gets swallowed down by the giant monster, and her severed leg flies up into the air. The little monsters are ecstatic. But wait a minute, she unleashes her ultimate attack from inside. Spiral style, Earth Canyon Gutter. The attack literally carves through the monster's belly. Covered in blood, she steps toward the monster holding her severed leg. "Die," she mutters and slashes it dead. Harrier watches in shock. He recalls the village chief meeting about Frey. He was against making Frey a mercenary they couldn't control, but did Benlira know something that could control her? Frey then calmly picks up her own severed leg. Found it, she says, complaining about her ruined clothes. Harrier watches, jaw dropped. He realizes she's absorbing the blood on the battlefield to instantly heal herself. That is the terrifying power of the Empire's 4 knights. Frey licks her lips. All right, shall we fight again? She offers Harrier some advice about his movements, but he just snaps back. No, I don't need it. He doesn't want advice from someone who tears her muscles by spinning, and she fires back. A bastard who gets stomped on when he fights shouldn't have such a big head. Here we go again, folks. They start bickering and kicking each other while Mangil just watches, wondering what on earth these two are. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out, Mr. Gill, it's the bard. He panics, asking about the village. She quickly assures him it's fine. Thanks to Mr. Skeleton, not many monsters got inside. The adventurers and guards are handling the rest. She then scolds him for being so reckless. What were you thinking, taking on a wyvern alone? Mangil just brushes it off with a smile. Don't worry, just a scratch. Besides, he proudly points to the dead wyvern. I caught a wyvern. For a story I can brag about for life, this is a cheap price to pay. She's furious at his casual attitude, but he gently reaches up and touches her face. This is 100 times better than you being in danger, he says softly. I missed you a lot, he confesses, and a single tear rolls down her cheek. He thinks to himself, I caught the dragon, I protected the village. Now, only one thing remains. Yes, folks, this was the bard's song. Defeat the dragon, save the village, and finally, save the princess. Crying, the bard tells Mangil he doesn't have to save her, but he says because of her, he achieved a forgotten dream, and now he has a new one to strive for. Now he wants to live a peaceful life and build a family. But then, it clicks. He's found the key. A peaceful life comes from having a loved one to protect. Meanwhile, Benlira is still busy mopping up the stragglers. The attack lands, and one of the beasts lets out a massive roar. Benlira follows up with a stab to the mouth. But something's wrong. Her sword doesn't work quite well anymore. But it doesn't matter. As a member of the legendary Heroes Party, these sorts of cheap tricks are beneath her. Time for Plan B. She shouts to Harrier and Frey, ordering them to herd the remaining monsters into one spot. She tells them to stop staring and get ready to unleash their biggest techniques. Frey's spiral style and Harrier's northern style power up, ready to be combined. They unleash their ultimate attacks. Axis of the Earth, Horizon Breaker, and Triple Lion's Blade Roar. Benlira watches as her disciples wipe out the horde. Good, she says. Now, it's my turn. She gathers power into her sword and leaps towards the giant beast's massive foot, aiming for a single critical strike. The attack slices clean through its flesh, leaving a massive, deep gash. It is the Centennial Tree felling slash. The monster roars in pure agony, but her sword broke mid-attack. Job not finished. Benlira curses her rookie mistake, but suddenly, Frey flies straight towards her. Mr. Skeleton, finish it properly, meets Benlira feet first and launches her back towards the monster. All right, round 2 to finish the job. The massive monster finally collapses, its body crashing hard to the ground. This wave was one of the biggest disasters to ever happen in recent history, but it was also the one with the least number of casualties. Livra Village, which had faced so many disasters before, still stood strong. As the trio prepares to leave, Mangil expresses his thanks. Benlira takes the map, saying they cannot delay. Mangil wishes them luck, promising that this village will now be used to build a better tomorrow. He declares that once the village is restored, he and his people will build a country where everyone can live in peace. Benlira hands him a golden medallion. When armies bearing that mark appear, she says, carve it on your flag and fight with us. Mangil looks at the medallion, promising that when the time comes, they absolutely will. As the party departs, Mangil clenches the medallion. The people cheer for their new leader. From now on, he is the commander. Watching the villagers as they leave the town, Benlira thinks to herself that even after all this time, there are still people who shine brightly. Elsewhere, in a loud, bustling forge, a muscular woman with long purple hair suddenly pauses her work. A man at a nearby counter asks if something is wrong. She just shakes her head and says, it's nothing. We land in Artisan Street, the city of fire and steel. This place is legendary. Nearly every masterpiece on the continent is born right here in these forges. And at the very heart of it all, the one and only Searcher's Forge. Inside, the master smith silently inspects his work, surrounded by an absolutely insane collection of blades. He calls out to his apprentice, Doran, come here for a moment. The master asks Doran a simple question. How long has it been? A little over 7 years, he replies. His master is impressed, saying he learns quickly. Doran gets all flustered, saying he just picked things up by watching. Then comes the official verdict. You pass. From now on, you may engrave your own signature on your weapons. Doran is absolutely stunned. Really? No takebacks? The master tells him to stop making that dumb face and buy a new hammer by tomorrow. His old one is getting passed down. And the kid just explodes with joy. He's so hyped he does a handstand while his master just mutters about what a lunatic he is. See, to an artisan, a hammer is so much more than a tool. It's a lifelong companion, the very extension of their will that tames molten steel. Buying one when you become a full-fledged artisan is a huge ritual. It's a brand new beginning. I hope he doesn't get too excited and buy something strange. Suddenly, he hears arguing from outside. Outside, it's our crew. Frey is already hassling Benlira. Are you sure this is the right place? Your brain's rotten. Maybe you remembered wrong. Benlira insists she remembers clearly right as they arrive. Ah, perfect timing. Harrier, Benlira, and Frey stand before the shop, looking a little out of place, to say the least. The master smith steps out to greet them. Oh my, customers, you've come to the right place. Come on in. He gives them the grand tour, boasting that his forge is the best when it comes to both weapons and armor. Harrier notes how quiet it is, and the master just explains his apprentices are all out at the moment. With the tour over, he gets right down to business. So, customer, what do you need from our forge? Benlira steps forward. I'll be direct. She opens his palm, revealing a shattered, crystalline object pulsing with dark magic. Can you fix this? Meanwhile, in the commercial district, Doran is getting seriously annoyed. Ugh, this place is always overflowing with people. A shady vendor immediately zeroes in on him, seeing a fresh-faced apprentice and an easy mark. But Doran pauses, remembering his master's words of wisdom. Choose a wooden handle that doesn't slip, and pick one with a balanced center of gravity. Finally, the most important lesson of all. The world isn't kind enough to spare the wallets of fools who spend their lives pounding iron. He looks at the vendor's wares and sees they're all total junk. Engraved, metal-handled, and horribly balanced. He goes off. You make a living scamming fellow artisans? May sparks fly during your forging and burn your junk to ashes? Doran is determined to search all day if he has to. Somewhere in this huge city, his destined hammer is waiting. But as day turns to dusk, he still hasn't found a thing. Totally defeated, he slumps down in the now empty marketplace. A vendor tells him to get lost. He's closing up. Then the panic hits. Ugh, I'm so screwed. Work starts again tomorrow and I still haven't found one. He starts running frantically through the street, literally wailing, "Wah, where are you, my masterpiece?" In his frenzy, he runs right past a lone, bald artisan sitting on the ground with a single hammer on a red cloth. Doran stops dead in his tracks. The hammer is perfect. Simple design, non-slip wood, and a perfectly balanced center of gravity. The quality is unbelievable, maybe even better than his own master's work. He approaches the old man. "Elder, is this item for sale?" The artisan confirms that it is. Doran wonders why a master craftsman would be selling goods on the street. The old man just chuckles. "If you like my work, just take it. I don't need the money." Doran immediately refuses, insisting he's not some beggar. The old man looks surprised, then laughs. "Then let's do this. Listen to my story. If you still want it for free, then do so. Otherwise, I'll take your money, you beggar lad." Doran asks if the hammer has some kind of cursed backstory. The old man's smile fades. Yes, cursed indeed. The story begins 40 years ago, when a promising young newcomer first set foot on Artisan Street. One day, an offer came from the nobility. Become their exclusive artisan and create decorative weapons for them. Now, this street has 3 sacred rules. Never bow to nobles, never turn away students, and an artisan's end must be honored their way. Blinded by money, he broke those rules. He chose greed and ceased to be a true artisan. He spent his life making decorations, just flashy ornaments to hang on walls. Years passed, and one day he realized he had wasted far too much of his life. What remained was not an artisan, but just an old man with no disciple and no forge. The artisan in him had died the moment he left this street, and so he made a decision. He struck iron one last time and poured his entire soul into the work. A rule breaker like him could never pass down his techniques, so he waited for someone who could recognize his plain hammer for what it was. And then, today you chose it. I am already satisfied that you chose my work. The elder explains. He made the hammer praying that his end would become someone else's beginning. He begs Doran to take it, saying there could be no greater honor for him. Doran listens to the entire story, his expression thoughtful and serious. Meanwhile, back at the forge, the master smith sighs. That request from Benlira is seriously troublesome. Suddenly, Doran bursts in, yelling for his master to come check something out. He triumphantly holds up a massive hammer, calling it this super ultra top tier tool for his new beginning. The master tells him to stop acting like a fool, but as he takes the hammer, his entire demeanor shifts to pure shock. "Where did you get this?" he demands. Doran, confused, says he bought it in the commercial district. He explains that an old man was just selling it on a mat at the far edge of the district. The master grips the handle tightly, muttering, "Damn it, he hasn't lost his touch." He hands the hammer back to Doran, his tone now heavy with respect. "Take it. From today on, you are an artisan. Your works will bear your name." He tells Doran he's no longer a child, but a proper artisan of this street. But while one artisan's journey begins, another's hits a serious roadblock. Back at the forge, Benlira asks the master smith a simple question. "So you can't fix it?" The smith explains this isn't some ordinary blade. It's a divine artifact, literally made from a god's flesh. Fixing something like that is way beyond his skill level. But Benlira insists this very forge crafted the sword a long time ago from the horn of her enemy. The master smith is totally confused. He has never seen Benlira before in his life, and he definitely doesn't remember making a weapon this powerful. Benlira just calmly explains, "Of course, the smith I met lived 100 years ago." The smith's eyes narrow as the reality of that statement sinks in. He finally gets it. "You are not human." "Well, that's true, but that isn't relevant right now," she replies. The smith looks down at the broken sword, suddenly recalling an old legend passed down through the generations of his family. The founder of the forge left a message. He'd forged a weapon for an ageless rogue searcher's benefactor, with strict orders to treat him well if he ever returned. He turns back to the small, cloaked figure. "It seems you are the one spoken of in that tale." Benlira confirms it. Even so, the smith admits he still can't fix it, but he knows a guy, an exiled smith who broke a taboo and could actually handle divine artifacts. Frey starts yelling about what a massive waste of time this whole trip has been. Short attention span much? The smith assures them it's not a waste. He says that while this street has fakes, there are plenty of genuine workshops still standing. Since Benlira has already proven her connection to the forge's founder, the smith decides he'll bend the rules and help them out. He tells them to seek out a very specific blacksmith, someone who truly understands the nature of divine artifacts. The name of his forge is called The Hearth Where a God Once Passed. Inside, the place looks more like a museum than a workshop, filled with bizarre holy relics and countless ancient weapons. Frey just laughs. It's nothing but sacred relics everywhere. This guy has quite the unique hobby. Harrier checks on Benlira, who looks really uncomfortable. Nope, it feels like a room filled with fumes from someone who ate 20 sweet potatoes. A voice suddenly calls out from a dark archway, asking if they're customers. The person apologizes, saying they were just in the middle of a prayer, and invites the group inside for a drink. They're led down a long, dark, and completely featureless tunnel. Super creepy. Frey immediately questions why a forge would even need a tunnel like this, and Harrier agrees that something is definitely off. Benlira suddenly speaks up, confirming what they were all thinking. This has to be a trap. She's been sensing mana circling them this entire time. Harrier starts to panic, asking why on earth they walked in unarmed. But Benlira is unfazed. "We came in on purpose." She was actually annoyed that the owner would try such an obvious trap instead of just greeting them. Suddenly, a new voice echoes through the tunnel. "Of course I didn't want to come out when non-humans enter the shop. There's no way I'd go out to greet them with a smile, right?" The smith unleashes a massive blast of holy light, screaming purification. Benlira is completely engulfed in the holy flames, letting out a horrific, blood-curdling scream. The smith vows to return the wandering undead to the great cycle of reincarnation. Harrier watches in absolute horror, screaming his master's name as the holy explosion rages on. Smith's hand begins to glow with powerful green magic. He unleashes his spell, Chainbinder. The magical chains immediately wrap around the Harrier's arm, completely disrupting his attack. Harrier is caught totally off guard, his entire body now bound by the glowing green chains. Frey catches the tip easily. That's a fun little trick. But Benlira seems to be enjoying herself. "Just calm down," she says. "This warmth feels so good." The smith is utterly baffled by this. He cannot believe it. Even his highest grade purification spell is having absolutely no effect. With a sudden clap of her hands, Benlira just dissipates the entire holy fire. "All right, that's enough." He casually stretches, completely unharmed. "Ah, it's been a while since I've loosened up. This feels nice." Her mask falls to the ground. "Sorry to say, but even though I'm undead, I'm not a bad undead. My name is Benlira Edward. If you want to fight, I'll gladly oblige. But talking things seems a lot better," she declares. The smith is silent for a moment, then lets out a small laugh, which quickly turns into a full-blown roar of laughter. "Not a bad undead with that skull face? What an amusing guest," he says, clearly entertained. "Very well, let's talk," he chuckles. "This, folks, is Gregory Gilliman Theo, master smith and priest of the forge." Gregory gets right down to business. He understands that Benlira is asking him to repair a divine artifact. Benlira explains it's a magic sword that grants her necromancy, but it's been split completely in half. Because she lost the other half, the necromantic abilities no longer work. She can create undead, but they just crumble to dust. Gregory finds this whole situation incredibly fascinating. "You truly are an existence outside the cycle, one who has strayed from the path, aren't you?" Benlira doesn't care what she is. All that matters is whether Gregory can fix the sword, for which he will be rewarded handsomely. Gregory's expression suddenly turns serious. "There is one iron rule in my forge. Before he begins any work, he must hear the story of the one who owns the equipment. Only if it sits right with him will he pick up the hammer. It can be a tale of glory, or a tragic story of hardship, but he demands, 'Speak with me here and now.'" He explains that unless he knows what enemies the weapons will slay or who the armor will protect, it's all completely meaningless to him. Without that purpose, even the sharpest divine artifact is nothing more than a useless lump of metal. A flick of his wrist, a fire erupts from the stone block. So let's talk in front of this bonfire. Now then, let's begin the story, he says with a smile. And so Benlira's story unfolds. She unloads her long, tragic life, the war, and the death of her entire party. It continues, showing her finding and training her young student, watching her grow, and finally holding her broken, dying body in her arms. The images shift to the more recent past, the fierce loyalty of Moran, and her brutal sacrifice to save Harrier's life. Having heard the entire story, Gregory looks up, completely captivated by the tale. Truly, how remarkable. He calls it a fairy tale, the story of a true hero who has managed to escape reincarnation itself. Frey and Harrier are just stunned. This is the first time they have ever heard any of this. But Gregory clasps his hands, his expression suddenly shifting. He says the story was good, but there are parts that raise his suspicion. He raises his hand, a golden light crackles to life between them. He looks through the light like a magnifying glass. As I expected. Gregory leans in, his eyes glowing intensely. You know, Benlira, you believe that the power to use necromancy lies in that magic sword, don't you? Benlira explains her reasoning. Of course she'd think the power came from the sword. It was made from the Demon King's horn, after all. But the smith isn't buying it for a second. He calls that logic nothing more than a wishful fantasy. He says Benlira just wanted to believe that such an evil power belonged to the sword and not to her. Harrier, who's been listening this whole time, is completely baffled by this weird line of questioning. The smith schools Benlira, pointing out that since she's not a mage or a priest, she doesn't understand the true nature of magic. He touches his own forehead with the magical flame, explaining that magic is born entirely from a person's thoughts and desires. He gives an example. The desperate, single-minded desire for warmth from someone freezing to death was likely the true origin of fire magic. Mages create miracles by believing in themselves, while priests manifest them by believing they're borrowing power from the gods. He tells Benlira that she's unable to use her powers because she's trapped, convinced that the sword is the source of her necromancy. The implication finally starts to sink in for Benlira. Wait, you're saying it happened because I wanted it to happen? He states plainly that Benlira didn't borrow her power from the sword at all. That forbidden art, the power to awaken the dead and command an entire army of death, that power is hers and hers alone. With a shocking, world-shattering revelation, the smith lays it all out for her. You are the Demon King. Meanwhile, in an imperial hall, a high-ranking official is reeling from some very bad news. Annihilated? Completely annihilated? One silhouetted figure asks if the emperor has been told. Another dismisses the idea, seeing no need to bother him with it just yet. With a sinister grin, he suggests they should just resolve this entire matter quietly amongst themselves. But the first official is furious. He scoffs at the idea of keeping this quiet, yelling that the news will absolutely reach the emperor's ears. He can't believe it. A knight of war and the former northern commander, leading a force of 1,000 men, all wiped out or missing? It's ridiculous. The calmer official declares that they shouldn't have sent the mad woman Frey. Sending an uncontrollable hunting dog was their fatal mistake. Unsatisfied, the angry official calls the whole situation a massive disgrace. They should seize the rebels at once, skin them alive, and scatter their remains in the pigsties. They must show everyone the terror of defying the Empire and carve the punishment into them. But while the Empire's officials are absolutely fuming, Benlira and the crew are back at the forge, discussing the very eccentric master smith, Gregory. Benlira confirms it. Despite the guy being a total weirdo, he actually accepted the job. Doran is completely floored. He cannot believe the old man is actually going to work on something. He explains that Gregory isn't just weird, he's one of the top 5 most legendary artisans on the entire street. See, while rookies like him are stuck mass-producing gear, the true masters almost never make anything at all. The master smith chimes in, saying most elite craftsmen are oddballs, and Gregory is the biggest oddball of them all. He's the type to just ignore any request he doesn't like. In fact, the last job he took was 2 whole years ago. Benlira figures she should feel honored, which Doran finds a little strange. But the master smith gets it. He scoffs that some adventurers treat artisans like dirt, calling them idiots for it. Benlira knows the truth. Anyone who's survived a real battlefield understands. Smiths and adventurers are partners. A warrior has to trust their weapon won't fail them, so they can go all out. She looks at the smiths and says, "That's why I trust the street, and I trust you." Doran appreciates the respect, but tells him that in the end, you have to trust yourself the most. The master smith agrees. Once a weapon is in a warrior's hands, it's their will that defines it. He tells Benlira, "We don't know how you'll use our work, but I know for certain that you're not a villain." He tells Benlira to have confidence in herself. At the table, Frey is smirking, while Harrier looks like his soul is leaving his body. Benlira quietly thanks him. She's grateful someone sees her for who she really is. Suddenly, Doran speaks up, sounding a little confused. Mr. Skeleton? But his question is cut off by a hand slamming down on the table with a loud crack. It's Harrier. He's glaring daggers at Benlira and shouts, "Master, it's been a while. I formally request a spar." They head out to the Bing Cannon Mine, a massive rocky wasteland that's perfect for a throwdown. Harrier thanks his master for agreeing to his sudden challenge. Benlira plays it cool, but even she has to admit this is really out of nowhere. Frey, just lounging on a rock nearby, tells Benlira this isn't about talking. It's about understanding through combat. She tells Benlira to just cross blades with the kid and figure out what's on his mind. As they get into position, Harrier remembers their last spar. His whole body still aches just thinking about it. He warns Frey to stay out of it. She just waves him off, promising not to interfere. Besides, she thinks fighting the skeleton in her current state wouldn't be any fun for her anyway. Two warriors stare each other down, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. The spar begins, and Harrier explodes forward in a total blur of motion. Frey immediately notices it. His burst speed is way faster than it was before. And Harrier knows it. He is fully aware of how much stronger he's gotten. Wooden swords clash in a blindingly fast exchange, filling the air with the sharp crack of splintering wood. Benlira deflects a swing and counters with a swift strike of her own. Harrier blocks, but the raw force of the blow sends a shockwave through the ground. He immediately retaliates, swinging his own heavy practice weapon with everything he's got. But Benlira is on another level. She dodges under the swing and disarms Harrier in one fluid motion. Harrier's eyes go wide. He never even saw it coming. Benlira seizes the opening, unleashing a devastating flurry of open palm strikes to Harrier's chest and stomach. The impact sends Harrier stumbling back, completely caught off guard by the sheer speed. He recovers instantly, lunging right back into the fray. The two engage in a brutal exchange of close-quarters combat. Harrier actually blocks a sword chop from Benlira with his bare arm. He pivots, throwing Benlira off balance and delivering a powerful sidekick. The expression is one of pure, focused intensity. The kid is in the zone. He unleashes a hurricane of spinning kicks, each one aimed to completely overwhelm his master. Benlira just tanks them. He blocks every single strike until his practice swords literally shatter from the force. Harrier uses the momentum to launch himself into another series of insane acrobatic kicks. The two opponents face off again, the intensity of the fight reaching a whole new level. Without a word, they charge at each other again across the rocky terrain. Benlira's broken sword has now become a makeshift jagged dagger. She stabs forward, but Harrier catches it, breaking his blade in the process. Benlira switches to pure hand-to-hand combat. They unleash a blindingly fast volley of punches at each other, a total blur of motion. Then, Harrier stomps his foot, sends a flurry of sand into the air, creating a screen. He uses the diversion to attack. This sends Benlira backwards. As Benlira leaps into the air, Harrier sees his one big chance. He channels all of his energy into his fist, unleashing a massive glowing uppercut. But Benlira just catches it. She stops the supercharged punch cold. Using Harrier's own momentum against him, he swings him around and slams him straight into the cliffside. Frey watches, impressed. She turned an attack aimed at his landing into a counter. Not bad at all. As the dust settles, Benlira calls out, checking to see if her student is okay. A hand emerges from the rubble. A voice says, "As expected." Harrier stands up, brushing himself off, and says, "You've weakened quite a lot, just as I thought." Harrier points out that Benlira was on the defensive the entire time. She never once went on the attack. He calls her out directly. "Why won't you fight me properly like you used to?" He demands to know, "Are you holding back because you think I'm weak?" Benlira tries to nervously laugh it off, but Harrier just stares her down. From the sidelines, Frey confirms it. The skeleton was obviously going easy on you. She smirks, saying she fought her before, so she'd know. Then she asks, "Has your heart weakened?" Benlira looks flustered, but before she can argue, Harrier shuts her down, saying Frey is right. He says that ever since they met the smith Gregory, Benlira has been completely lost in thought. He finally asks the real question. "Is what you heard at the forge, that you might be the Demon King, really bothering you that much?" Benlira clenches her fist, realizing it. This whole spar was just an excuse to bring that up, wasn't it? Harrier agrees. He says for warriors like them, a fight speaks louder than words. He admits he's been worried, telling his master that she's in a very dangerous state of mind right now. He says it's okay to stray from the path, because you can always come back, just like I did. He screams at her that she can return, because she's not alone anymore. He doesn't care if people call him the Demon King. To him, she'll always be his and Moran's master, Benlira Edward. He declares that he came down from the mountains specifically to support her and help her walk the right path. He insists his master is not some demon king who takes lives. She's a hero whose sword saves thousands, even millions of people. Benlira is shook by Harrier's words. Even in this cold, dark world, there are still people who shine like stars in the night. She thinks of her past companions and her new ones, realizing how lucky she's been to meet them all. A small chuckle escapes her. She accepts Harrier's words and agrees to resume the spar. But this time, she tells Harrier to come at her seriously. Benlira holds out her hand, promising to face him with a resolve worthy of the disciple who brought her back from the edge. Harrier's face breaks into a massive, excited grin. Yes! Frey watches from her perch, noting something interesting. Benlira didn't promise to go all out just to fight with resolve. Benlira calmly walks over to the edge of a cliff. He reaches out his hand and with a single deafening crack, breaks off a massive chunk of rock. The stone falls and shatters on the ground between them. Round 2 has officially begun. The battle resumes with an earth-shaking flurry of blows that fills the entire battlefield. Frey grins. The entire situation has completely flipped on its head. Now Benlira is on a relentless offensive, while Harrier has switched to defense, waiting for the perfect moment to counter. Two exchange a rapid, absolutely brutal series of punches and blocks at point-blank range. Benlira finally breaks through, landing a solid, crushing blow to Harrier's chest. Harrier grunts in pain, skidding back across the ground from the sheer force of the hit. But he instantly regains his composure, raising his guard as Benlira closes in for the finish. Harrier dodges a series of sweeping attacks, and in that moment, he sees an opening. He ducks under a punch, coiling his body like a spring before charging forward. He rams his shoulder into Benlira, tackling him with all his might towards the cliff wall. But as Harrier pushes her back, Benlira realizes her mistake. The feint was good, but going for a grapple was a waste. With a single shout, Benlira overpowers the grapple and effortlessly throws Harrier straight into the cliffside. The impact shatters the entire rock face. And that's when Benlira realizes Harrier's true plan. He was never cornered. He was aiming for this spot all along. The tackle wasn't meant to knock her down. It was to hold her in place as the rocks came crashing down. As the dust begins to clear, Harrier emerges and launches a powerful finishing kick. Frey's grin widens. It was a clever plan to ambush Benlira in the confusion, whether she was crushed or not. But Harrier made one fatal mistake. He assumed his opponent would let go when the rocks started to fall. His biggest mistake of all was choosing the wrong opponent. Harrier just stares in disbelief before finally admitting his complete and total defeat. Benlira lets him go, thanking him for the spar. She praises Harrier's skills, but the kid humbly says he was just a warm-up. Benlira insists, saying Harrier has truly grown strong, showing him just how far he's come. Harrier blushes, genuinely thrilled to receive his master's praise. Frey stretches and declares that since Sir Skeleton's spirits are back up, it's her turn to move now. Benlira gets all flustered, denying that she was sulking after being called the Demon King. Frey just laughs, telling Benlira that she's ugly either way and her actions don't change, so it really doesn't matter. With that, she lunges forward, ready for a fight of her own. Harrier points out that their sparring record is now tied, 1 win apiece. A sinister red aura flares around Benlira as she cracks her knuckles. Want to settle the tie? Best of 3. Frey lets out a wild laugh. Since when does the battlefield do best of 3? She leaps towards them, declaring, all that matters is who's still standing at the end. Harrier totally panics, yelling for them both to stop this madness. Suddenly, a massive steel pillar comes flying out of absolutely nowhere and smacks Frey clean out of the air. She's sent careening into the distant mountainside with a tremendous, earth-shattering crash. Benlira is left completely baffled. Did a steel pillar just fly in from somewhere? A new voice cuts through the chaos. I heard a commotion behind the village. What in the world are you lunatics doing? The woman stands atop the pillar, crackling with electricity and glowing red eyes. Why are you wrecking my village? Answer me. Sometime later, back at the forge, Harrier is getting patched up. Benlira comes to check on him, but Harrier tries to play it cool, insisting he's totally fine. Doran, the apprentice smith, isn't buying it. He scolds Benlira, telling her to go easy during training or Harrier won't live to see old age. But check this out. Benlira wasn't the one who did the real damage. In a quick flashback, we see the real culprit. A woman named Magania, who slammed an entire iron pillar into Harrier. Benlira tries to explain the absolute chaos. She says this new girl just appeared and smashed him with a giant pillar like a pro hitman. And suddenly, it all clicks for Doran. He figures she must have heard intruders were wrecking the mine and went into full-on defense mode. Benlira is totally lost, but Doran explains that everyone on Artisan Street knows her. Apparently, she's one of the top 5 artisans around, but she's also just the neighborhood lady who constantly mooches free coffee. What a legend. Speak of the devil. Magania pops up right behind him, having heard every single word. Doran immediately flips the script and starts showering her with compliments. Just then, the master smith enters the room. He's surprised Magania is here so early. She declares that she's here to give her cute junior a special lesson. Doran is surprised. A special lesson for him? Yup, the mastersmith himself requested it. He tells him that to be a real artisan, he needs to get out there, visit other smithies, and get some real experience. Benlira is seriously impressed by this. Meanwhile, Frey just asks if they can steal what they need. Benlira has to tell her to read the room. Megania drapes an arm over a very annoyed Doran, saying it's perfect timing for her research. Yeah, my guy knows he's just being used as a coffee fetcher. He asks about how Megania's research is going anyway. She calls it a masterpiece, an invention that will finally grant the wish she and his old friends always had. Its purpose? To give every single citizen the power to protect themselves. A truly noble goal. Master Smith is surprised. Didn't he tell her to just give it up? She says it's a promise she made with someone named Shoshana, who turns out to be the Master Smith's daughter. The tension in the room is so thick you could cut it with a knife. But after a heavy moment, the Master Smith sighs and gives in. He tells her to help him with some work at the smithy before she starts her special lesson. Megania is all smiles, agreeing as long as she gets paid. The Master Smith hands her an apron, and Doran's reaction is priceless. He's completely outraged that she gets an apron when he can't even borrow one. She just laughs it off, teasing him about being jealous. Master Smith drops some wisdom. He says Artisan Street is a pure meritocracy. Skill is the only thing that matters here. He tells them Megania's story. She was just a frail little girl, left all alone on a battlefield. Instead of a normal childhood, she picked up an iron hammer and learned to live in the heat of a scorching furnace. Eventually, her body grew to match her unbreakable spirit. The scarred child became one of the greatest artisans alive. He tells Doran to watch her closely, because he's about to learn the true spirit of an artisan. Meanwhile, on a nearby mountain, an entire Imperial army has set up camp. A conscription officer greets her commander, who looks less than thrilled to be stuck out here. This is Commander Bulka of the Imperial Third Army, and he wants to know why they've been sent to this middle-of-nowhere town. The officer holds up 2 fingers and lays out their objectives. First, the complete military takeover of Artisans Street. Second, they're going to dig up the artisans' cemetery and steal their hammers. She explains that since artisans use only one hammer their whole lives, the tools become infused with their spirit and wishes. This process literally turns the hammers into insanely powerful magical items. The artisans have no idea. They treat their hammers like lifelong friends and are even buried with them. So from the Empire's point of view, that cemetery isn't a graveyard. It's a treasure chest just waiting to be cracked open. Volka puts it all together. They're here to conquer the city, kill the wanted skeleton, and loot the graves all in one go. He calls her out, realizing her true goal was always the magic hammers. What a cunning move. She just gives him a sinister grin, saying she prefers to call it being opportunistic. She then corrects herself, saying that disposing of the skeleton is just part of the process. Finally, she reveals their ultimate prize, a tiny glowing blue gem. Volka's eyes go wide. He immediately recognizes it as an item that could change the entire tide of the war. The officer confirms it. It's a top priority target that has to be sent back to the capital for disassembly. Bulka crushes a clod of dirt in his gauntlet. He tells her to handle her own business. His army will crush the village long before the 4 knights even show up. He makes it crystal clear. His mission is the fall of Artisan Street. Taking out the skeleton is just icing on the cake. The officer just smiles and agrees, promising they'll be careful. Yeah, right? As night falls over the mountains, the officer gets an intel update from her team. Her recon team says the coast is clear, but they confirm the skeleton already caused a massive ruckus near the mines. She's annoyed he isn't even trying to hide. And to make things worse, an old blacksmith loyal to the Empire has just returned. Now she's worried about information leaks. This whole mission is getting way too complicated. With the legendary Death Knight on his way, she decides to speed up the plan and grab the items ASAP. If they stick around for too long, they're all going to be turned into a pile of ash. Her team wastes no time, breaking into a workshop and tearing the place apart, searching for their prize. But suddenly a voice cuts right through the darkness. The shop closed a long time ago. You guessed it, it's Megania. She's just casually leaning against the doorway, asking what they think they're doing. She warns them that every single item in here is a priceless part of her collection and way out of their price range. The officer tries to play dumb, acting all innocent and claiming they're just humble Imperial servants. She says they're just here to recover the enchanted weapons and that item for the good of the Empire. How wonderful. Megania just bursts out laughing. Bull stuff. The officer laughs right back, her friendly mask completely shattering. Then, with ice in her voice, she gives the order, kill them. Her soldiers lunge forward, but Megania is on another level. She easily dodges their attack like it's nothing. Then, with just a simple flick of her wrist, she completely turns the tables. Her enchantments activate. Glowing blue spikes erupt from inside the soldier's own armor, impaling them instantly. What a move. The officer is completely stunned, not expecting this at all. Her men collapse to the floor, dead before they even knew what hit them. She just smirks, admitting that a top-tier enchant artisan's workshop is full of some pretty fascinating toys. But Megania is just getting warmed up. Her fist crackles with electricity as she tells the officer, It's disappointing if you're amazed by just this much. She explains her special technique. She smelts the iron and embeds multiple enchantments at the exact same time. The attack she just used? A literal flying dagger enchantment? How cool is that? She admits they're incredibly expensive and basically one-time use, but they give a simple blacksmith the power to take down a knight. With an entire arsenal of electrified weapons floating around her, she demands to know what they were looking for and if they can even afford it. Actually, she changes her mind. She's already decided on the form of payment she'll accept. Her eyes glow a terrifying red in the darkness. The price for showing you something interesting are your heads, but the Imperial officer just scoffs at the threat. She calls it a lucky punch from a mere blacksmith. Magania just smirks and tells her to keep her eyes peeled. This only makes the officer even more furious. Losing her cool completely, the officer screams that she'll kill her and charges straight forward. Magania doesn't even flinch. She just raises a hand, summoning a storm of crackling blue swords to meet the attack. One of her loyal knights dives in front of her, yelling for Lady Piccola to get behind him. He manages to block the barrage, but not without taking a couple of electrified swords directly to his armor. Magania just laughs at his effort. You got hit by two? How disappointing. Put some more effort into it. Suddenly, Piccola steps forward, revealing she's got some tricks of her own as her hand ignites with intense flames. She warns that anyone who gets too cocky will die, unleashing a massive fireball jutsu. Piccola is caught off guard as enchanted swords shoot out from within the flames. Lukewarm fire. Megania's voice comes from within the flames. She emerges from the smoke, laughing like a maniac. You really think you can catch a blacksmith with fire that weak? Piccola just grins, revealing her real plan. I couldn't catch you, but you're about to be caught anyway. Just as a knight appears behind her with his sword raised, Piccola shouts, "Got you!" Magania encases herself in a pink energy shield. Did you think I wouldn't have a defensive weapon? She taunts. Then blue energy beams erupt from inside the trap, catching them off guard. Magania slips out of the way, snatches a regular sword from a rack, and hurls it at a knight with perfect aim. Knight barely deflects it, realizing in shock that she threw it with pure skill, not magic. Magania whispers the name of her technique, Dipper, as a huge, jagged blade materializes right beside the knight's head. She follows up with Dropnir, and the knight is instantly shredded by a storm of blades, his armor shattering completely. As the knight's body dissolves into black smoke, Piccola charges in for another attack. Magania tries to use her barrier trap again, shouting funnel, but this time Piccola is ready. You think that'll work twice on a knight? Piccola dodges the daggers and closes the distance in a flash, landing a brutal punch to the gut. She completely overpowers Magania, launching her into the air and pinning her with multiple beams of blue energy. Piccola gloats that she's found the weakness. The flying swords only move in straight lines, and she can't accurately control that many at once. Too soft, she yells, delivering another devastating punch that sends Magania flying across the room. Magania crashes to the floor, completely dazed, and Piccola is on top of her in an instant. She grabs our girl by the hair and viciously slams her face into the ground, sneering about her talent. Panting, Piccola calls her a cocky punk. With a terrifying grin, she promises to make sure Magania never gets back up again. Beaten and bloodied, all Magania can do is curse her luck. With their target down, the other knight remarks how embarrassing it is for a blacksmith to take down one of their own. Up on the rooftops, they prepare to escape. Piccola grins, holding a glowing gem. Who cares if we lost two knights? We got the item. Mission success. But just as she says that, a massive beam of blue energy erupts into the night sky. Piccola whips around, absolutely furious. That stubborn woman. Then, all across the city, identical flares light up the rooftops. Down below, a battered Magania manages a weak laugh. You fools, don't look down on Artisan Street. The signal works perfectly. The townsfolk see the lights and know immediately that something is wrong at Megania's workshop. Piccola is seething. Her plan to escape quietly is now completely ruined. Her knight points ahead, and there he is. The old elder artisan, standing in their path, holding one of Megania's glowing blue swords. Piccola recognizes him as the former Imperial workshop master. The old man takes a deep breath and lets out a thunderous roar. He screams to the whole town that an Imperial conscription officer has invaded Artisan Street. Piccola decides they can't leave a witness. His Imperial past makes him too much of a liability to leave alive. The knight charges forward, but the old master meets him head-on, their blades clashing in a blur of steel. The knight scoffs, "Can an old geezer like you even handle a knight?" The artisan calmly replies, "I know I can't, but I won't let you defile this street." Piccola mocks him for getting nostalgic. He admits that while he was successful with the Empire, he lost himself in the process. The roar of pure defiance, he declares he will not let the Empire toy with the street he calls home. He shouts that this is the proud home of the continent's best artisans, not some back alley for imperial thugs to mess with. His shouts draw a crowd, and the other artisans realize there's serious trouble happening at Megania's workshop. Kola is grinding her teeth in frustration. Trying to silence the old man just made everything worse, and now they need to get out of there fast. She's done playing nice and drops the act. Fine, I was going to spare you for old time's sake, but never mind, just kill him. The knight lunges, sword flashing through the air, but the old man meets the attack head-on. In an incredible move, he catches the blade with his bare, forge-blackened hands, stopping the killing blow inches from his face. The knight's raw strength is just too much. He overpowers the old artisan, driving the sword straight through his chest. Blood streams from the old man's mouth as he stares up at his killer, mortally wounded. The knight is shocked that the artisans are actually gathering in the streets, all because of this one old man's stand. With his dying breaths, the elder artisan says he's entrusted his wish to a certain young man. He has no regrets. He tells the imperial invaders that at the very end he will meet his end as a proud artisan of this street. The entire crowd, including a scarred Doran and the master smith, listen intently to the old man's final, defiant message. Master Smith realizes the grim truth. The empire is here to take their home by force, and if they do nothing, they're next. The elder artisan makes one last plea, urging his fellow artisans to take up their arms and become the walls that protect their home. As his life fades away, the old man has one last thought for his people. Please protect it. With the elder artisan's last words echoing in their hearts, the grim reality of the situation sets in. Last night's Imperial raid was a brutal, targeted strike by 11 elite soldiers. Their mission was simple: hit Megania's shop, post knights at the gates for an easy escape, and get out. But they got caught. Battle was an absolute bloodbath. 5 invaders were taken down and 2 were captured. But the conscription officer and 2 others slipped through the south gate. But this victory came at a terrible cost. 17 of their own guards are dead, with another 7 critically injured. At Megania's bedside, Doran can only watch. You can practically feel the rage boiling just beneath his skin. She's completely unconscious, covered in bandages from the Empire's brutal first impression. They really did a number on her. In the Great Hall, the Master Smith delivers his report to the Elder Council of Artisan Street. The mood is heavy. He tells them the Empire hasn't been this aggressive since that incident, and now a choice must be made. He's certain the Empire is aiming for a total takeover this time, but their true goal is still a mystery. At the back, Benlira speaks up. She thinks she's the target, claiming she's made a lot of enemies in the Empire. The Master Smith just laughs. Sorry, Skeleton, but that's a bit self-centered. He explains that this whole mess actually started years ago. It's time for a history lesson. Back then, Artisan Street was a total dumpster fire, completely rotten and corrupted under the Empire's control. Everything changed when one woman appeared, a legendary figure named Garencia Yuta. She single-handedly shattered the Empire's hold on the city and gave it back to the artisans, establishing it as a free, autonomous district. Tells Benlira the Empire was just waiting for any excuse to invade again. Benlira wasn't the cause, she was just the trigger. And now, he repeats the ultimate question. Do they fight back, or do they surrender their home in silence? One artisan slams his fist on the table, roaring that there's only one option left. It's time for the last wall plan. Another artisan panics, shouting that the plan means all-out war with the entire empire. He asks if they're all just going to die, but a third man shuts him down with ice in his veins. I'm sorry, but we're already at war. Lyra steps up. She lays out the facts. The empire invaded. They killed their people. They raided Megania's workshop. And then she drops a bombshell she learned from the prisoners. An imperial army is already waiting in the mountains. There is no escape. Flashes of past battles fill her mind. She warns them that if they do nothing, more of their comrades will fall, just like last night. Because of the Empire, she tells them the entire continent has already been turned into a massive battlefield. An artisan is stunned. Benlira removes her mask, making her point crystal clear. They must fight not to destroy, but to protect. She asks the proud artisans if they'll just ignore the fallen. Would the dead want them to cower in fear? She clenches his fist, his voice filled with conviction. Not a chance! Scream for what you've lost. How long will you endure this? Shout until your voices give out, artisans. Benlira delivers her final promise. She will be the messenger for their rage. She will be their sword. She roars, "Join us!" The hall falls silent for a heartbeat. Then, one artisan whispers, "Let's do it." And suddenly, the room explodes. A massive roar of agreement. It's war. They've had enough of living like this. They're all completely fired up now. I'd rather fight and die than become the Empire's slave. Another shouts, "We were stupid to even hesitate." Seeing their unanimous resolve, the Master Smith closes his eyes. The decision has been made. He raises his voice and gives the command. Activate the last wall plan. Everyone to your positions. From now on, the street moves, and as he says it, the entire city begins to shake, rumble, and transform. Let's show the Empire what happens when they underestimate blacksmiths, he declares, then turns to Benlira. Thank you, you've charged their morale. Benlira shakes her head. I didn't do anything. The will to fight was already in their hearts. They just needed a push. She quickly changes the subject. That aside, what about that item I requested before? The Master Smith looks exhausted but manages a smile. It's in the final stage. It was tough without Yuta, but don't worry. He says that with Theo's help, it might turn out even better than expected. He tells Benlira he's not so different from Yuta. Benlira looks around, curious. Speaking of which, I don't see Theo or that hooded brat at this meeting. Turns out they're busy with an urgent task, something they want to finish before Megania wakes up. Another artisan laughs nervously, hoping they won't be MIA for the actual war. Meanwhile, on a nearby mountain, Pecola gets sent flying by a vicious punch straight to the face. Commander Bolka towers over her. He's furious. He told her to be cautious, but she acted alone, lost soldiers, and gave up hostages. His eyes glow from under his hood as he looms over her. Conscription officer, how will you take responsibility for this mess? Coughing up blood, she claims she was trying to suppress the village early. But Bolka isn't having it, yelling that she's ruined the entire operation. He slams his hand into a tree, his sharp nails digging into the bark. He screams that she's given the artisans a reason to riot. His voice echoes through the entire forest as he roars, I'm asking how you'll handle it. But despite the beatdown, Pecola calmly pushes herself up. With a bruised face, she just says, there is nothing for the commander to worry about. Bolka is completely stunned by her sudden confidence. What is she playing at? She reports that she got the item they were after, and more importantly, she confirmed the skeleton is in that city. She claims that besides his small group, they're facing a bunch of nobodies. Once the 4 knights arrive, victory is guaranteed. Bolka points out the 4 knights won't be here until evening, but Pecola just smirks, revealing one of her men never reported back. Just then, a messenger arrives with a scroll saying a carrier pigeon came from the 4 knights last night. Bolka snatches the scroll. A message from the Blue Knight. What could this be? His eyes widen in pure shock. But that shock quickly turns into a slow, unhinged laugh. He'll never understand the high and mighty 4 knights. Prepare for war immediately, he screams. That metal city will fall by tomorrow. Pecola mockingly agrees, muttering insults about him under her breath. He has no idea what his superiors are planning, and frankly, he doesn't care. This chaos is the exact opportunity he's been waiting for. Later, he rallies his own army. Prepare yourselves, my soldiers, he commands them. Raise your spears high, he challenges their pride, asking how long they'll let their skills rust in the shadow of the 4 knights. As he marches with his men, he roars out a challenge to his enemies. Wash your necks and wait, you morons. Looking down on the city, he sees his path to glory. Everyone there is just a stepping stone for him to surpass the 4 knights. This will be his masterpiece, his moment of triumph. The stage for his glorious ascension has finally been prepared. And so Bolka's army marched towards glory. From a high vantage point, Harrier is on recon, and he does not like what he sees. He counts over 400 soldiers, way more than they were told. He immediately questions the plan, asking if it's really smart to attack an army of unknown strength. But Benlira is ice cold. She says waiting is just a slower way to lose, and besides, she has total faith in Frey to get her job done. And Harrier can't really argue with that. I mean, come on, it's Frey. Losing isn't in her vocabulary. Benlira then tells him to look down, to see what they're truly fighting to protect. Below them, the city is a hive of activity. Artisans are moving massive equipment into place, preparing for the battle of their lives. Benlira points out the peaceful everyday scene. It's a sight you could find anywhere in the world. Harrier quietly agrees. No matter where you go, people are just trying to live their lives. But Benlira's tone turns grim. She reminds Harrier that soon, this entire town will become a battlefield, and all of this will be destroyed. She puts her disciple on the spot. Unlike their fight in the north, this battle has nothing to do with them personally. They're the ones dragging these innocent people into their war. And you can see the weight of that choice hitting Harrier hard. He wavers, asking if this is really the best way, or if they'll end up regretting this decision. But Benlira just turns the question right back on him. Harrier, what do you think the right answer is? For a moment, Harrier struggles. He admits it's a difficult, maybe impossible question. But then, something clicks. He remembers his duty, his fallen tribe, and the dreams of his friend Moran. His resolve hardens like steel. He declares that the people down there aren't just caught in the crossfire, they're fighting their own battle. There might not be a clear answer, but he's prepared to fight. The enemy is here, and so are they. That's all that matters. Benlira looks down at the city, a hint of a smile behind her mask. I see, that's a fine resolve. Speaking of which, the Master Smith is delivering a legendary speech. Today, we gather to fight for our rights against the Empire. He asks them, did we take up our swords just so we can die? And the crowd roars back, no. Are we using the last wall plan because we are cornered? And again they shout, no. With a powerful roar, he declares, today we will fight for our tomorrow. We are not slaves. We are the proud artisans of this street. Let's fight for this street. The entire city erupts in a massive battle cry, their morale at its absolute peak. And just in time, too, the ground starts to rumble. The Imperial Army has made its move. 50 cavalrymen are charging the east gate. A lookout calmly relays the info, and the master smith just nods. Is everyone ready? He yells. The artisans below respond with a unified, deafening, yes! The whole city starts to shake. Deep underground, Gregory stands before a massive contraption, the last wall. With a confident smile, he channels fire into his fist and slams it down. Activate! Outside, the charging cavalry is thrown into absolute chaos as huge, jagged spikes erupt from the earth, impaling men and horses. The commander tries to rally his troops, scoffing. You think a few simple traps can stop us, you metal workers? Oh, but this is no simple trap. The very ground begins to split apart, opening a massive chasm right in front of them. Beneath the city, colossal gears grind into motion. An artisan reports to the master smith. The last wall is functioning perfectly. All across Artisan Street, smiths activate hidden levers in the cobblestone, and the gears below spark to life. And then it happens. A colossal stone wall rises from the chasm, sealing off the city and blocking the Imperial Army's path completely. The soldiers are just left staring in disbelief. What on earth is this? Just what did you build? One of the knights is so shocked he literally falls off his horse. All he can say is, no way. Another soldier just screams in frustration. Do not mess with me, you measly metalworkers. Atop their new fortress, the artisans scramble to man the defenses, opening hatches for weapons all along the wall. The master smith glares down at the invaders. This wall was created by every artisan together. It is our resolve to never bow to you again. An imperial commander tries to intimidate them, offering to spare them if they surrender now. Bad move. The master smith just laughs. You think I'll just say yes, sir, and open the gate, you fool? The commander is stunned into silence. Benlira scoffs at the Empire's predicament, and this nonsense isn't going to last long. This war will be over in an instant. As her words echo, we cut to Frey, sprinting through a forest. Flashback 2 hours. Frey is getting her mission from Benlira. You want me to enter the enemy camp alone? Benlira explains that her being seen here would expose their entire plan. Frey gets the picture. She lays out the strategy. Benlira and Harrier will hold the wall, but a long war is a losing battle for them. They need to end this, and end it fast. That's why we need a checkmate, she says. The plan is a classic decapitation strike. Frey will sneak in along the mountain ridge and assassinate the enemy commander. She tells her plainly, Frey, this whole war depends on your speed. With her mission clear, Frey arrives at the enemy camp. But as she gets closer, she realizes something is terribly, terribly wrong. It's dead silent. She can sense people nearby, but there's no movement, no sound, and a strange smell hangs in the air. Based on intel our heroes got from captured knights, they had 3 key pieces of info. First, that their forces were small, less than 300 men. Second, they were led by Commander Corpseye Bulka. And third, that their HQ was right here. The blank stare of Bulka confronts her. Frey? A voice asks, surprised. What are you doing here? Frey tries to play it cool, but she is rattled. The captured men never spoke of one particular secret. What do you mean, what am I doing? We're in the middle of a war, and you're hiding in this place. Hiding? The voice counters. The shadowy figure holds Bulka's severed head in their hands. Frey's eyes widen. A terrifying, shadowy figure with glowing red eyes stare back at her. Meanwhile, back on the wall, a scout frantically reports new forces approaching. The first wave was just a diversion, but the scout stammers that these new reinforcements, they are not human. Suddenly, the sky over the city darkens as a massive swarm of winged creatures blots out the sun. It's an entire fleet of dragons, and they are descending upon the city. Back in the forest, the ominous figure confronts Frey, mentioning he heard she went missing in the north. Did you switch sides? He sneers. To think you would actually betray the Empire? He taunts her, saying, I knew you were stupid, but... He pauses as he slowly swallows Bulka's head whole. With a sickening crunch, he bites down and blood explodes from his mouth as he grins. This, folks, is the Blue Death Dragon, one of the dreaded Death Knights. He licks the blood from his hand and finishes, You are unbelievably stupid. A new, terrifying monster has just entered the war of humans. Long ago, the blue-eyed hero defeated the Demon King and brought a new era of peace. Today, the Empire's special brand of monsters are said to be as strong as that hero. They were called the Empire's 4 Knights. Each one was a walking disaster capable of shaking the very foundations of the world. And among them is the absolute worst of the bunch. Frey can only stare, completely stunned by the raw power she just witnessed. She's known as the abandoned blue-lit dragon princess, or, more simply, the Death Knight. Meanwhile, the artisan city is having a really bad day. Dragons are swarming the skies as the defenders scramble. Reports are flooding in. 20 dragons from the northwest, more from the northeast. They're totally surrounded. The Mastersmith realizes the first attack was just a distraction for this. He gets confirmation that his combat forces are ready. He asks for a status on their secret weapon, the mana cannon. A young smith confirms it's charged and ready to go. All systems are green. 4 mana missiles, fuses are good, no problems here. All along the massive wall, glowing blue ports slide open, revealing some serious hidden firepower. The Master Smith raises his hand. Mana missiles, fire. A devastating barrage of energy erupts from the wall, streaking towards the sky. Watching the light show, Benlira is impressed. But she's a realist. She knows a few fireworks won't be enough to stop a whole dragon army. She turns to the old smith. Shouldn't you be somewhere safer? You're kind of a big deal. The smith just grins. An old skeleton 100 years older than me is on the front lines. How can I hide in the back? Point taken. He admits that thanks to Benlira and Frey's mana, the cannons are way stronger, giving them a fighting chance. He says he's been waiting for this moment since the day he lost his daughter. He's already passed the torch to the next generation, someone with a stronger spirit. He looks at Benlira, hoping the world their kids grow up in will finally be a peaceful one. Benlira starts to agree, but their moment is cut short by a massive crash. Alarms blare. A dragon has breached the wall. It's pure chaos. A huge dragon stands on the ramparts, and everyone is ordered to evacuate. 2 brave artisans charge forward to buy some time. It does not go well for them. They almost become dragon food. But out of nowhere, Harrier flies in, slamming a powerful kick right into the dragon's face. Using his rope dart, he zips up the beast's snout and slams it to the ground. He releases the rope, and the dragon topples over. KO. Landing back on the wall, he catches his breath. Frey was supposed to be quick. She's late. Just then, Benlira calls him. There was a huge explosion to the south. Looks like the plan went sideways for Frey. She tells Harrier, I'll leave the dragons to you. Don't give them an opening. Harrier desperately pleads to go with her, insisting he can handle himself. Benlira stops him with a simple question. If you leave, who will hunt those dragons? She clarifies that it is not about being weak. On the battlefield, you have to play to your strengths to win. It reminds Harrier that they're both from the north. Dealing with giant monsters is what they do. Harrier gets it, a smile breaking across his face. Please come back safely. All right, Benlira responds, already a blur of motion as she leaps from the wall. She zips through the air, effortlessly slicing through dragon after dragon. The dragons don't even know what's happening. They're all like, huh? Before they even know it, Benlira's right above them. It's go time. Further off in the forest, the Death Knight is slashed in the face by Frey. The Death Knight just grins through the blood. The third time, with a casual flick, she sends Frey flying into a distant mountain with explosive force. Frey is completely baffled. She killed her, for sure. 3 times? Why is she still alive? There are no healers nearby, so how is this possible? Suddenly, the Death Knight is right beside her. My, you've learned how to think, she taunts, but your guesses are all wrong. Then Frey unleashes her attack, spiral style, Horizon Breaker, to get away. She is stunned. Floating in the air is a black spinning sphere. You've changed, she gloats. I think the prideful dragon princess would use the ash she used to be so ashamed of? The Death Knight looks annoyed. You're as noisy as ever, but this is not the time for that, is it? See, she knows Frey's biggest weakness. After using a major technique, she absolutely has to drink blood, or she'll self-destruct. She taunts her, go ahead and take my blood. If you can, that is, she screams. Frey's face twists into a matching manic laugh. You think I can't? She lunges forward with blinding speed. I will drink every last drop. As the 2 psychos trade blows, allow me to share a bit about Frey's power. See, her spiral style is a technique that pushes her body past its absolute limit. It literally destroys her from the inside out. She gets around this by drinking blood to regenerate. The only problem? She still feels every agonizing second of the pain. It is a self-destructive cycle, pushing past one's limits while ignoring the agony of tearing flesh and twisting bones. But Frey has perfected this style. As she tucks her pelvis in, she feels the bones shattering. She pushes herself to rotate it more and more. Dragon Princess just watches and laughs. You crazy witch. Frey knows that perfection alone won't be enough. She has to go beyond that to win against the Dragon Princess. As if reading her mind, the Dragon Princess suddenly appears right in her face. Like that would happen. A move you could barely see. She sends a blast that obliterates Frey in all sorts of places. She mocks Frey for being so obvious with her moves. Did you really think I would just stand here and watch? But see, that's exactly what Frey wanted. And now she unleashes her ultimate move. Spiral style, Heavenly Axis. Heaven and Earth Splitter. The blast hits its mark, tearing into the Death Knight's body. She just glares, eyes glowing red. This crazy witch. But Frey just laughs, embracing the madness. Isn't this fun? Let's laugh our hearts out, Dragon Princess. This is what a war should be. What a psycho. See, Frey's entire combat style is a certified death wish. She throws out self-destruct level attacks, then drinks blood to heal and do it again. It's a special kind of crazy, and it's what makes her the Knight of War. Death Knight retaliates, launching her across the entire forest. But she's just laughing midair. Your blood's pretty sweet. Got diabetes or something, princess? She lands with a crash. Death Knight is just disgusted. Suddenly, she reaches up and pops her head like a balloon. Did she just attack herself? Nah, Frey doesn't think she'd do that. Well, her stomach just got ripped open. So was it to regenerate her wounds? Does she have to be on the brink of death before she can regenerate? Looks like the princess's powers just got an upgrade. She's absolutely thrilled by this. Man, this is going to be so much fun. Frey tells her nothing else matters right now except fighting her to the death. She's been waiting for this moment for a long time. The other 4 knights weren't too bad, but she's always had a special thing for the princess. The Death Knight is completely repulsed. Disgusting. You live with fantasies like that? Don't be so delusional. But Frey says those dumb delusions are what let people dream. Besides, she got what she wanted. Death Knight has had enough. Reaching deep into her mouth, prying it wide open, she promises to crush Frey completely. Nah, you won't, Frey just deadpans. And then black ashy sludge starts pouring out of the Death Knight's mouth, flooding the ground. Even Frey is shocked by how weird this attack is. Death Knight smiles malevolently as the ash coming out of her mouth becomes a flood. Then the whole thing erupts in a massive spiky explosion of dark ash. Frey gets it. Looks like the princess is so desperate to deny her blood. She doesn't even need her spiral style to deal with some ash. Oops, looks like she spoke too soon. Her sword is barely making a dent. Looks like the dragon princess is creating a barrier of ash and is expanding it from the inside. On top of that, the ashes form into giant pincers that are aiming right at Frey. Frey realizes the ash reacts to vibrations. Anything less than insane speed gets hit. But Frey just grins. With my legs, it's worth a try. What a psycho. The princess hears her running, thinking she's trying to escape her domain. Can she really outrun the endless ash she's pumping out? The entire forest is already her territory. As long as Frey can't drink her blood, her powers are useless. All she has to do is expand. Go on, run, she taunts. You're already inside my mouth. She suddenly senses a small ripple in the ash. She pinpoints her. Roughly 500 meters from here. She's quick. But it doesn't matter. She's still in the palm of my hand. It's over. But then her eyes snap open. Something is very wrong. What is this? What am I sensing? Is it just her imagination? But no, it's real. She's detecting Frey's presence literally everywhere at once. Impossible. She shouldn't have the energy to move like this. She remembers it clearly. She popped her head off so her body would regenerate and recover her blood. Frey shouldn't have a blood source anymore. So how is she still moving inside his domain? Voice echoes through the ash, mocking him. And you call yourself a princess of dragons? The Death Knight is completely stunned. She has no idea what's happening. Pathetic, Frey's voice continues. Hiding away because you don't like to bleed a little? That's why you get discarded. The princess pinpoints her location and sends a massive spike to crush her. This time I'll crush her for sure, she vows. But Frey's voice just echoes again. Ah, how pathetic. The Death Knight is lost. How is Frey still moving? Frey's voice answers her thoughts. With that tiny brain of yours, you won't even get close. She keeps roasting her. A pitiful dragon with no horns, no fire, and an empty head. And the final blow? I can't imagine how ashamed your parents must have been. The dragon princess' rage boils over. She unleashes a furious volley of massive ash bombs. And finally, thinking the coast is clear, she opens her ash shield. Waiting for this exact moment, Frey emerges beneath her. Just as I thought. Simple. The Death Knight is floored. Is that a rat? Frey runs her sword through the dragon princess's head. You blasting the place up brought all the rats scurrying from underground. It was more than enough to fix my legs. With a wicked smile, she asks a question. To regenerate, you have to die first, right? So what happens if she just stabs his brain over and over? You know, for science. And that's how she did it, folks. Frey tore herself apart to create decoys and use the rat blood to heal herself and break into the domain. Suddenly, the Death Knight grabs the sword. The fight isn't over, folks. Berserker mode activated. A sphere of blue ash envelops them both, hanging silently in the sky. The sphere begins to vibrate, distorting the very air around it. Back at the city walls, Harrier watches, sweating bullets. Then a massive silent shockwave erupts, a wave of pure rage that feels like death itself. Folks, the Empire's invasion should have been a walk in the park, but they seriously underestimated the city's last line of defense plus Benlira's crew. The entire battlefield was descending into total chaos. But that massive explosion just now was a signal that the battle was nearing its end. Death Knight stands alone in the smoldering ruins, turning to the defeated Frey. She starts her villain monologue, saying she never understood why Frey betrayed the Empire, Get a grip, Frey. With your current power, you can't possibly win, she says. Crawling back to the Empire and begging for forgiveness was her only option. But Frey just laughs. What utter garbage. And guess what? She's got the dragon princess arm in her mouth. What a psycho. Frey notes that the princess sounds scared. The you from back then would never say something like that. She mocks her, a so-called dragon princess, telling a human to surrender. But then she grins. I get it though. I guess I'm just that strong. As the Death Knight watches, she realizes something is wrong. Frey's regeneration is getting faster. She's like, this lunatic calls herself human? In what universe does that look human? She's got a point there. Frey cackles, telling her to cut the crap. Their fight is far from over. There's a snake in front of me. Of course I've got to knock it down. Now, let's start again, she roars. With a terrifying scream, she declares that the real fight has just begun and charges. Then suddenly, silence. A new challenger appears, and he just stomped Frey into oblivion. Sorry to say, the mysterious man announces, looking down at the bloody mess. But this is as far as you go. The Death Knight just frowns and blows her head off. The newcomer offers the headless body some help. The Dragon Princess is just annoyed that one of the Empire's 7 ministers is butting in her business. Then her half-formed face snarls. Are you hoping to die? The guy just laughs, admitting he was watching through the Death Knight's eyes and got bored. Well then, he says with a grin, shall we go greet them? Miles away, Benlira is sprinting through the woods. She felt the battle's energy shift from 2 fighters to 3 and back to 2. Did Frey go down? Back in the battleground, the newcomer senses something. Take 3 steps forward or you'll die, he says. Just then, Benlira drops from the sky like a meteor, crashing right where the Death Knight just stood. The Death Knight is floored. She instantly recognizes her. This guy is the Wraith of Spear Tower Village. I felt an unpleasant aura and wondered what it was. I never thought Frey would lose though, Benlira says. Benlira asks the strange man if he's the one who beat Frey. He confirms it but adds, I'm not necessarily your enemy. The man chuckles, pulling back his hood. Benlira's eyes widen. Hello, Benlira, he says with a grin. It's been a while. Benlira is completely speechless, too shocked to even feel the Death Knight approaching. Before she knows it, the Death Knight plunges a dagger into her side. As Benlira stares, the man looks on with a sly look. You don't look well. Want a little help? Benlira just laughs. What could these dorks do to a skeleton, right? Wrong. Suddenly, a flash of golden light explodes, and she's in a vast, bright void. Where am I? She stammers. And why am I back to normal? She realizes that Guy did something, and why the heck is he still alive? It's been over 100 years. It must be that artifact's power. But why is he on the Empire's side? No time for questions. A voice calls out to her. Hey, master? Nah, I shouldn't call you that anymore. You're a demon lord who slaughters innocents and starts wars. Benlira cannot freaking believe it. It's her golden-haired disciple, her face all bloodied. A single agonizing question rings out. Why can't you say my name? You forgot me already, huh? Outside, the minister and the princess watch as the giant pink lotus envelopes Benlira. The princess is curious what just happened. Oh, it's just an artifact the hero's party created to defeat the Demon King. The Demon Lord was physically invincible, so instead of breaking his body, they found his one weak spot and decided to break his mind. Continues that even with an indestructible body, the Demon Lord's mind was never whole. She asks what that means, but he just waves her off. That's a conversation you're not ready for yet. Simply put, there's nothing in this world that doesn't have a weakness. Inside Benlira's mind, the voices are becoming unbearable. Damn artifact, she mutters. Keeps feeding into her deepest fears. She knows it's not real, but it was so damn hard to keep it out of her head. It's your fault, the voices scream. She struggles to hold herself together. It's relentless. Until finally, Benlira's mind cracks. Memories flood her mind, meeting the young girl for the first time and training her in the forest. Smile as she grew stronger, and the final, tragic image of her dying in Benlira's arms. The white-haired man watches the lotus pulse with energy. So it's begun, he says, and begins to recite a prophecy. It speaks of a being born to reign, who will bring salvation to all suffering realms. Master of endless mana, sovereign over all evil. Now, bear witness, the birth of a new demon lord. Cue the villain laughter. But suddenly, a gasp interrupts the fun. He glances to his side and the dragon princess is gone. Uh-oh. This wasn't in the script, he mutters while staring at a gigantic Benlira 2.0 aiming a finger blaster right at him. Looks like his plan has backfired hard. Demon Lord Benlira unleashes a terrifying demonic power. This mysterious guy with the white hair doesn't waste a single second, blocking the attack quickly. The attack slams into a nearby mountain with some serious force. Heimu Gojo is stunned. How strange. She shouldn't be moving like this. Before he can even blink, Benlira is right in his face, grabbing him by the wrist and landing a blow that sends him flying to the next mountain. Guy can't believe it. The artifact was supposed to turn Benlira into an empty puppet, not this. Without even pausing, Demon Benlira launches another attack. Poor dude gets smashed again into the next mountain over. Buddy, That's what you get when you FAFO. Benlira is relentless and the white-haired guy is barely dodging the attacks. Honestly, you're just charging without thinking, he mutters. Calm down, he orders, flicking his wrist and casting a paralyzing spell. But nope, Benlira breaks it easily, and he gets yeeted again to the next mountain. He's still trying to figure it out. The Mindbreaker should have made Benlira a useless puppet, but something went terribly wrong. He lands and confronts the raging beast. Benlira, what is it that makes you hate this much? Benlira says nothing. So talking is pointless? Should I be subjugating the demon lord right now? He smiles. Benlira's shadowy arm stretches out as the man puts up another barrier. He just laughs. I'm kidding. As if I'd do that, Benlira? I don't want to kill an old friend. Benlira's hand makes contact but says, it's useless, Benlira. You must have forgotten. You can't hurt me. Not this time, bud. Benlira, the demon lord, breaks through the barrier and grabs him by the neck. The man is shook. Did she just pull him toward her? Nah, she just flew in at a ridiculous speed and grabbed him. I appreciate the passion, but let's make this a bit more intense, he tries to reason. Suddenly, the ground at their feet starts glowing red hot. Next, an explosion, like a massive volcano eruption. Seriously, you're as brute force as ever, Dragon Princess. The man, who's now a crow, squawks out. From the molten rock, the Dragon Princess emerges. The crow is grumpy. Why'd she have to blast him too? He threatens payback later. The bird now notices that the Dragon Princess is fine, as expected. But Benlira somehow took 0 damage from that massive blast. The bird cackles. You used all your power, and she still took no damage. Think you can handle this on your own? Benlira makes a move. In an instant, she blitzes forward and grabs the Dragon Princess, and brutally smashes her into the molten rock. Ouch. The Death Knight unleashes a savage flurry of blows, but it barely leaves a dent. Suddenly, Demon Lord Benlira squeezes and tears a hole right through the Death Knight. Even the crow is disgusted. Next, Benlira lands another blow that tears the Death Knight's body in half. Okay, the Death Knight's in shock. What's happening now? Benlira's spinning her around like an Olympic hammer throw and yeets her away. The Death Knight is horrified. Did this psycho just swing her around by her guts? Benlira is unstoppable. She's already closed the distance between the Dragon Princes and the two trade more blows. There's no winning this one. The Dragon Princess gets slammed to the ground again. The crow asks if the Dragon Princess is okay. It looks like the Dragon Princess has a plan and is burrowing deep in the ground. The bird figures she's not running away but probably trying to regroup. Benlira approaches the hole. Suddenly, ash tendrils shoot out and skewer her. The bird is in total shock. Unbelievable, it says. Folks, the Dragon Princess just spewed all her ash out from inside the mountain. Since she can't win a straight fight, her plan was to consume the entire region. But the plan backfired. She chased Benlira into his own mind and trapped herself instead. Benlira reaches down and touches the earth. And yet, something else is happening now. Her broken soul, filled with guilt, combined with the Dragon Princess's own power, begins to move the fallen Benlira. The resulting explosion is catastrophic, wiping the entire mountain range clean off the map. From the smoke and ash, Benlira emerges unharmed, holding the battered body of the Death Knight in her hand. The Death Knight curses her, calls her a monster. Projection much? Crunch. Benlira crushes her head. Blood splatters everywhere as she finishes the job. The Dragon Princess' head just chuckles. Unfazed, she casually tosses the head aside like a piece of trash. Then, something catches the Demon Lord's attention. The artisan city in the distance, full of life. Benlira, who is now more Demon Lord than her actual self, raises a hand, starts raising her undead army. A new reign of terror begins. The Demon Lord King has officially clocked in for his shift. Back at the fortress, the crew's still busy dealing with the monsters. But suddenly, the whole squadron gets popped like bloody balloons. The artisans on the wall are completely stunned. What is that? The dragons are just spontaneously exploding in midair. Even Harrier has no clue what's happening. Suddenly, a wave of purple energy washes over everything. In that instant, everyone feels a primal sense of dread. It's the kind of fear you feel when you know you're about to get deleted. This is the aura of a being that has transcended death itself. The Demon King's undead army begins to materialize, and they plow right through the Imperial lines. This new spectral army is on a whole other level. They're shredding the Imperial troops. Normal swords just phase right through these spooky boys. Even the dragons get swarmed and taken down by a wall of undead spears. It's a one-sided slaughter. Harrier recognizes these purple specters. He's seen his master use them before. Suddenly, a new voice finishes what he's thinking. You're wondering why they're attacking? A completely wrecked Frey stumbles onto the wall and proceeds to swallow the Dragon Princess's arm. Yuck. She gets straight to the point. Skeleton got hit by an artifact. She's coming to invade. She explains the undead are flooding in from the southeast, and every kill just adds to their numbers. Benlira is still recovering from her fight with the Dragon Princess, but she won't be down for long. An artisan panics. Benlira is their ally. Why is she doing this? Frey just snaps. How should I know? With a crazy grin, she tells them to stop asking why and start figuring out how to survive. Artisan is floored by her attitude. Then Harrier remembers the chieftain's words. Benlira is a legend, but she's still human. She's always had to be the cold, calculated leader for the greater good, and it's Harrier's duty as her disciple to keep her on the right path. Harrier's resolve hardens. There's no time for questions now. They have to hold the line. He can't let the blacksmiths fend for themselves or they'll be wiped out. He wonders what to do. Guard the wall. Benlira's last instructions echo in his mind. Right? He can't stop now. He has to keep thinking and reading the battlefield. One mistake and everyone dies. He's the one who keeps the flow of the battle going. He is the heart of this army. Just then, an artisan runs up in a panic. All the troops and dragons they just killed are rising up again as undead. Another defender starts to despair, begging the master for a plan. This is actually better for us. Harrier and Frey enter the chat. Harrier orders the ballistae switched to shrapnel and the cannons loaded with purification ammo. Even with more enemies, they still have the high ground. And now that the enemy is undead, they have a clear weakness. Purification magic. This fight isn't over yet, Harrier declares. The Master Smith looks at Harrier with new respect. That's your first real command decision, Frey chuckles. She points out that by turning undead, the enemy army got a major intelligence downgrade. Now they're just mindless zombies charging in a straight line. She grabs Harrier and forces him to look over the battlefield. This is the commander's viewpoint. How does it feel looking at it from here? She explains the undead infantry are just dumb clumps of corpses. They can't break the wall. The dragons got nerfed hard. Now they're just big undead with obvious weak spots. You're a better commander than I thought, says Harrier. I'm the Knight of War for a reason, kid, she scoffs. I wasn't chosen just for show. She clarifies something. She doesn't just like fighting. She loves war. One-sided beatdowns are boring. What she craves is a real, honest-to-goodness war. She looks him dead in the eye. So, what's the plan? And she turns to the blacksmiths. Fight or give up. Make your choice. Doran is the first to speak. We're artisans, not fighters like you. But this is our home. This is where we belong. They've worked for generations to earn the name artisan. He rallies them, reminding them of their pride and their duty to their craft. They declare they will fight alongside Harrier to the very end. Harrier looks down, a small, determined smile on his face. Very well. Crowd erupts. The blacksmith's morale is through the roof. It's go time. Harrier thinks of Moran, her memory giving him strength. He has to keep moving forward. Let's go, Moran, he whispers to his fallen friend. The artisans rally for battle. Empire, undead, it doesn't matter. They'll fight them all. We are Artisan's Street, they yell. On the walls, Harrier becomes a whirlwind of death, his rope dart shredding every ghost in his path. Commanders on the ramparts scream orders to fire. The cannons rain shrapnel down on the undead horde. But it's not enough. The Master Smith roars. Mix purification magic into the cannon shots. Cannons light up with holy energy and unleash a devastating blast, vaporizing the undead. As the undead turn to dust, Harrier feels a glimmer of hope. For a second, he thinks they might actually win this. And then that hope is instantly shattered. A massive purple energy beam slams into the fortress. The wall explodes. The defenders are thrown into chaos. Frey pulls herself from the rubble. We got complacent, she mutters. But the reality was, nobody could have predicted an attack from Benlira so soon. Far in the distance, a colossal, shadowy hand reveals the source of the attack. Harrier orders an evacuation. Everyone off the ramparts. Gunners, clear out now. He feels it. A massive surge of power is gathering on that distant mountain. It's the Demon Lord. He's charging up another attack, and this one looks like a doozy. Harrier knows what's coming. That purple lightning is coming right here to finish us off. If that wall falls, the undead will pour in, and it's game over. Then a new voice cuts in. What a headache. Who's making all this noise? It's so loud I can't concentrate. Harrier stares in shock. It's Megania, still alive. She looks around. Teo told me what was going on. Pretty wild stuff. She then turns in the direction of Benlira. So you help us, and then you attack us? She claps her hand, and sparks start to fly. What the heck are you trying to pull, skeleton? She demands, pulling her hands apart, revealing pure power emanating from a newly formed hand. It's unnaturally silent right now, Megania thinks. It feels just like that day, the one where the gods decided to go AFK. Tragic backstory incoming, folks. Her entire village had been completely torched. Her parents were gone. The poor kid was left all alone in the ruins. So, in total despair, she did the only thing she could. She prayed. But the girl who once prayed for a miracle now becomes one. A huge explosion of energy erupts from the fortress. The Master Smith is shook. See, after her home was destroyed, the folks on Artisan's Street took her in. She was lost and alone, they gave her a purpose. And when she was about to give up, they were there to support her. All of those connections forged her into the artisan she is today. She was still young and had a whole lot to learn. In a flashback, her elven friend Shoshana asks what she's working on. Megania's dream? to build something everyone in the Empire could use for protection. Shoshana has some bad news. She's been drafted into the army. She says not to worry. It's a safe, rear-line gig, just handling equipment. Megania makes her promise to help finish her project when she gets back. She wants to build a world where people don't need gods to feel safe. Shoshana laughs and agrees. A world without prayers sounds pretty good. Anyway, that promise didn't last long. What's left of Shoshana came back in a box. So much for being safe and sound in the rear line. The master smith was heartbroken. Shoshana was his daughter after all. Megania can't help but wonder if there even were gods up there. Why let all this happen? Why does this world have to be so incredibly cruel? Why? Which brings us to a more recent past. A scarred Megania, missing an arm, sits in bed. Benlira walks in and she greets Mr. Skeleton with her usual sass. Benlira is all business. She tells her if she was gonna mope around like this, she should have just stayed down. And that hits a nerve. She completely breaks down, screaming at her. She asks him what a skeleton could possibly know about her suffering. She yells that when she prayed for help, it was people who answered, not gods. So she dedicated her entire life to paying that kindness forward. But she failed. Her creation, her dream, shattered right in front of her. She grabs Benlira, desperately asking why she keeps being tested like this. Why does everything she cares about get taken away from her? Megania, Benlira says softly, gods don't help. They only give trials, and those who overcome them become who they're supposed to be. That's what a monk used to tell me. Benlira tells her she doesn't believe in gods. All she's ever seen are humans struggling to survive. In fact, she's seen humans who shine brighter than any so-called god. She helps Megania up. Megania, you and I, we weren't born to just sit around and pray. She tells her to stand up, because the only thing worth believing in is humanity. It wasn't a god that made her an artisan. It was this city, this community. Megania was saved by a cursed man, and she, by not giving up on her dream, saved Benlira right back. Then she turns to leave. I'll see you in the battlefield when you're ready. And if possible, come with a smile. Theo and Doran are behind, watching the whole thing. Then she turns to them. I have a request to make. And now we're back to the battle. The attack is coming, and some dude is freaking out. He's screaming that they're just artisans. They can't possibly fight this thing. But Megania just looks at her new arm. She says Benlira isn't a monster, just a normal person who lost his way for a while. With new resolve, she decides to face it head-on. A massive purple death beam closes in. She stands her ground, gathering her own power, and she unleashes a brilliant blue beam of energy. The two attacks collide in a massive explosion. Her shield holds strong, standing strong against Benlira's attack. Folks, Megania's new arm is a masterpiece, worked on by 3 of the best artisans on the street. It's linked to the entire city's mana supply, and it had enough power to completely deflect the Demon King's arrow. But wait, there's more. As she spins the arrow around, it gathers momentum and she sends it flying right back. What a Chad. It slams into the Demon Lord, leveling mountains. This wasn't a god's miracle. It was a human one, built by the whole team. She crackles with energy, a wicked grin on her face. Not bad for a test run. She's running at 1000% power. Now then, she asks the Demon King, are you ready to talk? But the Demon King, though, didn't even break a sweat. Because of that powerful counterattack, Artisan Street now became the Demon Lord's sole target. A giant undead creature that would give Attack Titan a run for his money prepares to smash. But Megania is not about to let her city fall that easily. She unleashes her mana shield that completely repels the colossal titan. Nice try, buddy, she yells as the giant is pushed back. Then Frey joins the fray, unleashing an ultimate move with a name longer than my to-do list. Even Megania has to admit, that lady is pretty something. Still, she's a little distracted by Frey's sudden wardrobe change. Her skills are S tier, but that outfit is a solid F. Doran snaps at her for judging fashion in a crisis. The momentary distraction is broken by a grim reality. The number of undead has multiplied, and they're climbing the barricade. One of the purple spectral creatures manages to crawl right over the top. Doran readies his weapon, determined to hold the line no matter what. He swings with all his might, smashing the creature's head and sending it flying. But as he knocks more of them off the wall, he grits his teeth. There's just no end in sight. Suddenly, a voice tells him not to worry. Doran turns, surprised to see who's arrived. It's Harrier, leaping down the side of the wall and diving straight into the horde. He moves like a whirlwind, his rope darts slicing through the undead with deadly precision. Doran is absolutely speechless. Theo just chuckles, amused that he's geeking out like a little kid. Theo steps up and says, I will show you something even more amazing. He unleashes his own technique, Chain Binder, sending crackling green energy chains erupting from the castle towers. The chains instantly ensnare the climbing undead, stopping them dead in their tracks. Watching from his rope, Harrier can only mutter that it's a completely absurd technique. But even with their combined efforts, the tide isn't turning. Doran looks out grimly. These things just keep coming, with no signs of decreasing. He realizes the outer barricades have already collapsed and the main wall is taking a serious beating. First, the undead are adapting, their hands evolving into sharp hooks to climb the walls even faster. Theo casually explains it's probably because they're getting closer to that thing. As if on cue, a massive new shadowy form descends from the sky, complete with leathery wings. "You're here," Theo murmurs. Standing on a colossal shadowy arm that just smashed into the wall is a new figure, and Theo calls it by a familiar name, Benlira. Humming a tune, he casually observes the demon lord. "Ah, so that's how it is," he says as he sees through that thing between his hands. Harrier approaches with a question. "You called her Benlira. What did you mean by that?" Theo then calmly reveals a shocking truth. The one who just fired that thunder is another form of Benlira. Harrier, Doran, and Frey are speechless. "Huh?" Magania, crackling with energy, confirms it. She could feel Benlira's aura from inside that being. Theo begins to explain. Benlira isn't just a vessel for the Demon King's power, she's the medium. It's more accurate to say the magic power doesn't just flow through her, it completely covers her like a suit. Frey chimes in, asking if he became a skeleton just because his body rotted away under all that magic. Theo clarifies that the skeleton they've been seeing was actually the magic itself, masking the real human Benlira inside. He compares the whole situation to a Russian nesting doll. The Demon King's magic was placed over the human Benlira, and after a century, she probably forgot she was even human. Now, for some reason, another absurdly massive layer of magic power has been added on top. Fry waves him off. All right, explanation over. You talk too much, weird tattoo guy." He quickly summarizes, Skeleton lost her mind, her magic is running wild, and now she's attacking the city for no reason. With the summary complete, she gets right to the point. "So, how should we kill her?" Harrier explodes. "Kill her? What are you talking about?" Frey immediately takes it back, admitting that killing her was a rash suggestion anyway. "Because we're the ones who are gonna die," she finishes. And right on cue, the Demon Lord unleashes another arrow their way. "Not so fast," Megania shouts, leaping back into action. The Demon Lord's energy blasts down, but it's met by Megania's dome. With the attack blocked, the Demon Lord pauses, almost as if it's confused. Megania roars up at the sky. "It won't work, skeleton. Shoot as many times as you want. I'll block them all." She continues to challenge her former ally, trying to get through to her. "Aren't you going to snap out of it? Skeleton!" Doran realizes she's seriously pushing her limits. Turns to Theo desperately. "Theo, if we pour purification magic on the skeleton, can we revert her back to normal?" Theo dismisses the idea. He tried it before at his shop, but his holy fire only made Benlira feel nice and warm. But Doran's not giving up. He got a plan. "We might not be able to win, but there is a way to not lose." High above the chaos, the Demon King pauses its assault, seeming to fall deep into thought. The Demon Lord analyzes the battle. The first shot tore down the barricade, the second shot was met with a direct counterattack, and the third, there was only defense but no counterattack. Of 3 attacks, only 1 was countered. That means the defense isn't automatic, it's being cast manually, and a manual defense has limits. All it takes is the right timing to crush them completely. But this is the Demon King. She's not interested in a boring war of attrition. She's choosing victory through absolute, overwhelming brute force, because strategy is a luxury you can't afford against this. Back on the city wall, Harrier confirms the new plan. "All right, the people here should be able to pull this off somehow." He's worried about leaving the undead to the artisans. But Theo just laughs, telling him he worries way too much. They're the continent's greatest artisans. They're more than capable of basic combat. But Theo cuts him off, his eyes narrowing. It seems they are officially out of time to hesitate. Suddenly, a purple blast slams right into the city wall, sending debris flying everywhere. Theo is stunned. He can't believe she would make her arrival in person. Harrier's face hardens with resolve. He agrees. There's definitely no more time to hesitate. "It's go time, people. Time to get Benlira back." Folks, things aren't looking good right now. The walls are crumbling. The Demon King's army are pouring through the gaps, and the artisans who were hanging by a thread. In one part of the wall, there was only silence. The team finally come face to face with the Demon Lord Benlira. Magania breaks the tension with a wild grin. She looks at her allies and says, "All right, you punks, let's have some fun." She slams her hands on the ground, channeling a massive surge of pure electricity. The lightning surrounds Benlira, who just stands there radiating pure evil energy, completely unbothered. Suddenly, Harrier and Frey leap in from the sides, flanking her in a surprise pincer attack. Benlira effortlessly blocks both of them and flings them both away. Frey is actually impressed, but her praise is cut short when Benlira's shadowy hand shoots out and grabs her by the ankle. With a powerful swing, she smashes her straight into the ground. Harrier grits his teeth. This is not going well at all. He dodges the airborne Frey and makes his move. He unleashes a storm of attacks from every possible angle, but he can't land a single hit. Suddenly, Benlira's terrifying face is inches from his own. Now it's the Demon Lord's turn, but she's surprised. Harrier managed to stop her attack. Won't work a second time, he just grins. He grabs both her hands. Benlira just unleashes a massive amount of pressure at Harrier, but Frey's ready to throw down again and unleashes spiral-style bedrock piercer. The attack leaves a hole and sends Benlira flying in the air. That's exactly what Meganium was hoping for. She fires. A colossal beam of blue energy erupts from her arm, rocketing right towards Benlira. She grits her teeth, screaming, "I'll never let you get away." The blast slams into the side of the city wall, causing a truly massive explosion. Benlira just tanks it. She appears right behind Megania and lands a blow on her midsection. She sees the next one coming in slow-mo and thinks, "I'm going to die." But it's Frey to the rescue as she stomps Benlira to the ground. Megania can't believe it, since Benlira's arrival has been funneling the entire city's mana directly into the Demon Lord this whole time. But instead of getting crushed by all that pressure, Benlira just unleashes an even greater amount of mana to cancel it out. She's left wondering, just how powerful is this monster? That exact moment, Doran gives the signal. Now Mr. Theo, glowing green chains suddenly erupt from the ground, wrapping themselves around the Demon Lord. "It's Theo," he grins and says, "Looks like your head's running a little hot. Let me cool it down for you." With a massive heave, he rips Benlira right out of the wall and swings her into the air. Theo launches her high into the sky, cheering, "Perfect, great height." Megania yells out, "All right, shall we do this by the plan, Doran?" Okay, folks, time for a quick strategy briefing. The mission, return Benlira to her former self. In theory, it's simple. They just have to destroy the source of the Demon Lord's mana without also destroying the real Benlira inside. And yes, they're doing all this without even knowing if the original Benlira is still alive in there. Big yikes. But they have a secret weapon to override the demonic power. It's a special item called Doran's Peace. The plan is to inject mana from a soul with a desperate wish into this thing and hopefully save Benlira. Megania and Theo get ready to combine their powers. Megania becomes a conduit for the entire city, channeling Theo's purification magic through her like a circuit board. Theo unleashes the spell, shouting, "Come on, it's time to wake up from that nightmare." The full power of the city's purification magic descends in a massive beam of holy light, a real orbital cannon. Demon Lord's mana begins to peel away. It seems like the endless evil is finally fading. Before they can even blink, Benlira zips up to Frey and skewers her with bare hands. And Frey is absolutely tickled by it. With her hands still stuck in Frey's chest, she slams Frey to the ground in a glorious display of blood and gore. Theo, watching from a distance, can't believe it. But hold up, he's next on the list. Before he can even react, he's blasted off the wall and sent crashing through the city below. Harrier watches his friends get taken down one by one. Rage fills his eyes. He is absolutely furious. Ignoring Megania's cries to calm down, Harrier does the sensible thing and charges in alone. He unleashes a vicious attack with his blade, but the demonic shell just casually blocks the attack with its arm, not even flinching. Harrier switches tactics with a grappling move, which brings them both to the ground. He knows he can't win with brute force, he just has to hold it in place and buy some time. At the very least, he needs to incapacitate its legs to stop it from moving. With a sickening crunch, Harrier is defeated. Megania steps in. "What a shame," she says. The demonic shell steps away from Harrier and faces her next target. But Megania is fearless. "All this time pretending to still be human. You are just a useless monster," she taunts. Doran is completely lost. One second he is on the watchtower, the next he is here. Suddenly a vision hits him. Is that Benlira? Did the Demon King finally take over? He wonders, why is everyone risking it all for Benlira? Why is there so much resentment in this person? And why does she suddenly look so relieved? What's the point of all this? We don't know either. Reality suddenly calls, and just in time too. A giant purple monster was about to turn him into a chew toy. The monster chomps down, but it's not Doran, but the cold, hard flesh of the Master Smith. With a single grunt, he slices the monster into a dozen pieces. Easy peasy. He looks down at Doran and gives him a light bonk on the head. Dude tells him to get a grip. He is just glad Duran's thick skull saved him from the fall. When Duran points out his master's bleeding shoulder, the old man just brushes it off. He says it is time to go. The other artisans need help evacuating. The younger ones are wounded and have no combat experience, so they're going to lead them to the emergency base camp. Doran starts to panic. How can you possibly hold the front on your own? But his master just flexes a bicep bigger than my future. He says this old body is just getting warmed up. Suddenly, he asks what's happening up there. Because of his careless plan, Harrier's been taken down. Benlira's power is too overwhelming. He's beginning to spiral. Master Smith gives him a headbutt that sends him staggering. "Pull yourself together, Doran," Master Smith roars. "Does this battlefield look like it's already lost? Are you going to dishonor everyone else still fighting their hearts out?" the Master Smith asks. "This fight is not over." He orders Doran to get up and do what he can. He tells him to leave the war to the commanders. All that matters is what they can do. right here, right now. That does the trick. Doran grabs his hammer and they lead the charge with the other artisans right behind them. The master smith smashes the first creature that gets in their way into a pulp. A creature comes in for a sneak attack, but it's Doran to the rescue, and he obliterates this one. Now they have a rhythm going. They carve a path through the horde of monsters. Master and apprentice working side by side. They yell orders to the younger smiths, "Don't fall behind. Once we're out of here, everything will be okay." While Doran is busy barking orders, a monster appears from behind. Doran sees it too late. The clutch move, the master smith shoves Doran away and takes the blow. Doran can only scream in horror. Even with a hole in his chest, the smith turns and vaporizes the creature with one savage punch. Doran is torn. Protect the smiths or help his master. With his last bit of strength, the master smith leaps into the horde. "Don't stop," he screams. "The young ones die. Artisan Street has not future." He tells them they are the future of the forges. He orders them to keep going without looking back. He'll carve a path for them somehow. The master smith slides into introspection mode. He should have done this long ago. As a master, a father, and an artisan, he is making his last stand for their future. Why couldn't he do this for his daughter back then? And the answer was simple. Now, he had Doran by his side, as an equal. A determined grin spreads across his face. He realizes that with the artisans finally united, they might actually be able to fight back against the Empire. With a final burst of hope, he thinks to himself, "We can actually do this. They will avenge their home, their fallen friends, and finally strike back against the Empire." Suddenly, a hand grabs his. "It's over now, Master Smith." The smith is like, "What?" Another artisan thanks him, telling him he can rest now. The smith has no idea when they even arrived at the camp, like he blacked out. The guy explains that Doran carried him the whole way after he passed out. Master Smith just stares at his old, scarred hands. He mutters to himself, "So, I have finally gotten old." Doran runs up, relieved he is awake. He says he brought a healer, but the Master Smith just waves him off. He says it's time for him to retire. He just wants to rest a bit before he rejoins the fight. He looks Doran straight in the eye and tells him, "It is your turn now. You are the next master of Surtur Forge." Doran cannot believe it, but the smith is serious. He says if he pushes any harder, he can kiss a peaceful retirement goodbye. This is as far as he can go. So Doran has to take it from here. His final words are a command. Keep hammering, get stronger, and build a legacy for the future. Then, his hand goes limp and falls to his side. Doran just stares, completely speechless, as Master Smith's voice grows weaker. With tears streaming down his face, Doran screams at the top of his lungs, "Open your eyes, Master Smith." Then bam! The smith clocks him one and tells him to pipe down. Doran is ecstatic, but the smith just grumbles. He tells the idiot to stop yelling so he can rest his eyes. He says he is fine and tells Doran to go help the others. With a determined nod, Doran gets up, ready to follow his orders. The smith smiles. "Good, I am counting on you." Doran nods and runs off to rejoin the fight. The master smith watches him go, a peaceful look on his face. He looks down at the blood soaking his clothes. Yeah, this is enough, he thinks. He has finally accepted his fate. He has lived like an outcast for too long. It is about time he got some rest. He looks up at the sky, thinking about his daughter and everything he left unsaid. "My girl, now I can finally go in peace." Meanwhile, back at the fortress wall, things are quiet. Too quiet, until a massive clawed foot slams down on the stone. What's this? There's a crack in Benlira's armor. Creature looks down, confused by the damage. Magania just smiles, electricity crackling around her. We're now into the final round, folks. Suddenly, the cracks get even bigger. No one knew which of their attacks did it. Not even Magania saw it coming. But she flashes a faint, confident smile. That little smile is all it takes to make the big bad hesitate for a split second. That's the only opening they need. Harrier, the Northern Warrior, and Frey, the Empire's Knight of War, return to the battle. The Demon Lord throws a tantrum, smashing its fists down and sending a shockwave across the wall. In the cover of dust, the Demon Lord heads straight for Magania. But hold up, Harrier is having none of it. He swings his blade and weaves it against Benlira. At the same time, Frey joins in, delivering a brutal flying kick. Two power up their techniques and unleash them at Benlira. In rage, the Demon Lord smashes its shadowy tendrils into the ground, clearly getting annoyed. Harrier blocks the blow and pivots to Benlira's other side to land some hits. Benlira goes on the offense against Harrier, but Frey is closing in. Wham and bam! The two warriors are a tag team, taking turns to wear Benlira down. Gania unleashes a massive blue energy beam. Did it get her? Wasting no time, she just raises her hands, her power crackling as she prepares her next move. She summons a whole pillar from the fortress itself and pinning the Demon Lord on top of it with her power. Frey's closing in to attack, but Benlira simply just slices and dices and the tower is gone, and Frey is now a splatter of blood. Frey starts regenerating and delivers a devastating kick, sending Benlira flying. Benlira is unstoppable. She's back in Frey's face. The relentless assault continues, pulverizing the ground with each and every impact, both sides not willing to give up. They're like a blur now, the fight going all over the place. Then Harrier lands. He chews Benlira out for being reckless, charging in without even watching her footing. "Get it together," he taunts. But as she raises her fist, Frey charges in, sending Benlira backwards. Meganea sees her opening and fires another massive multicolored energy beam. The beam slams into the Demon Lord, engulfing it in a torrent of purifying light. She's impressed by her own power. This is a ridiculous amount of anti-demonic mana she's putting out. As the smoke clears, the demon is still standing. Meganea just grins and says, "Haha, good, keep it coming." Meganea vows to take everything the Demon Lord has, as many times as it takes. It's a battle of attrition, and after the fourth barrage, Meganea's body is finally hitting its limit. The once impenetrable energy shield finally begins to crumble under the strain. Frey screams from below, telling her to dodge, not block. She knows that the next hit is going to punch straight through the entire area. The Demon Lord unleashes its devastating attack, but Meganea just stares it down, unflinching. Suddenly, a tiny green object appears. Meganea looks up, battered and bruised, as a volley of green projectiles fills the sky. Below, the artisans are scrambling to retaliate in the only way they know how. Switch the cannons to purification shells, targeting the sky right above. With a thunderous roar, they fire absolutely everything they've got. Orin rallies the others, screaming that they'll fight alongside them in their own way. As the purifying rounds soar through the sky, Meganea carefully takes aim. She's pushed past her limit and can't release any more of her own mana, but she sure as hell can still control the energy they just gave her. The green energy ball she fired quickly swallows Benlira, but it only takes a few seconds for her to break out of it. She is shocked. Did the Demon Lord break through her restraints? "Not yet," Frey yells, grabbing Harrier as she zooms away. She's not completely free yet. Benlira's demonic form is now bound by glowing green rocks of pure energy. The dynamic duo are not far behind. Frey asks if Harrier saw it too. Yep, Benlira was holding back every time she faced Harrier. Half out of her mind, and she's still looking out for her kids. "Then I'll rub out what's left of that reason for you," Frey declares, ready to go all out. "I'm counting on you, partner in war," Frey yells as she launches Harrier at the falling demon. As they descend, Harrier remembers a conversation with his master. "Dying to protect is different from protecting even after death," she explained to him. Now he gets it. On the ground, Meganea makes her adjustments. Harrier bursts into flame. He's going to bring his master home, even if it kills him, just like Moran once saved him. "This time, it's your turn," he blazes. Unleashes his ultimate technique, Yunmu, a colossal burst of red energy, the ultimate collab between Northern Style and Artisan Street. Panting and totally exhausted, Harrier falls from the sky. But his attack wasn't enough. The Demon Lord just floats there, right beside him. Harrier just chuckles. "You think you won, don't you? Unfortunately for you, I've done my job." Benlira is now floating above the massive Artisan Street furnace. Benlira senses a trap and tries to move away. Harrier puts his faith in his last ally, saying, "I'll leave the rest to you, Master Teo." Down in the rubble, Theo grins. "So you don't like cooling your head off? Then let's heat things up." The green chains wrap around the demon's limbs. With a clench of his fist, Theo yanks the monster down. This is no ordinary furnace. It's the very core of the city's mana network. With her connection broken, Meganea can't output mana anymore, so she prepares for one final move. The Demon Lord roars as Meganea gives up control, letting the entire city grid pour into the forge. In quiet fields nearby, a deer is just trying to have a peaceful meal. Suddenly, its lunch is interrupted by a massive pillar of green energy erupting from the city. The light flares out, bathing the entire city in its glow. This is it, the final move. Standing on the city ramparts, Meganea lets out a furious roar. Time to wake up. She's sick of the destruction and the monster's nightmares. "You've had more than enough," she screams. "Now get up." Deep inside the torrent of energy, the Demon Lord's outer shell is getting absolutely obliterated. Bandaged hands reach out as its chest cracks and shatters. The entire monstrous form explodes. And from the shell, a figure emerges. It's Benlira. That's a wrap on this recap. Hit that subscribe button to help us keep pumping out awesome content. Catch you in the next one.